He's your average loser with a filthy job and no girlfriend, but after almost dying in a monster attack, he accidentally swallows a parasite that grants him the ability to transform into the strongest monster. The story begins in a world overrun by terrifying creatures known as kaiju. While the surveillance team stays caught up in their tasks, a brand new ugly kaiju suddenly emerges, throwing the city into chaos, as emergency alarms blare across every corner, warning citizens to rush to the nearest shelter. The investigation team quickly sends word to the base that the latest target is making its way from Yadobasho to Yamashita town and seems to measure about 60 meters in length with a fortitude level of 3.6. As the reptilian kaiju storms through the city, the defense force gears up for battle, and this time it's the 3rd Division that gets called into action. Mina Ashiro, the commander of the 3rd Division, leads the charge and dives straight from a helicopter and engages the lizard-like beast in combat. Her team follows right behind to back her up, and without wasting a second, she fires a shot that takes the creature down in one clean hit. The kaiju's bodily fluids explode on impact and splatter everywhere, turning the whole area into a disgusting mess. Once the defense force finishes off the monster, it's time for someone to deal with the aftermath. That's when our middle-aged protagonist, Kafka Hibino, shows up munching on a burger while peering through a telescope at the filthy slum he and his team are about to scrub clean. On one side are the celebrated heroes who get showered with cheers and admiration, while on the other are these cleanup workers who don't get so much as a nod of respect. Still, Kafka sees this as his own kind of battle against the kaiju and takes a strange sense of pride in doing it. He sends a sample of the creature to the tech unit before getting back to his gross but necessary job. But one of the guys gets a little too careless and a piece of the monster explodes, causing a superficial injury to a rookie. The head of the cleanup crew then turns to Kafka and orders him to switch over to the intestines section since they're short on manpower over there. Kafka clearly finds the idea disgusting and grumbles about it, but the moment he steps in, it's obvious the guy's a total pro when it comes to handling stomach-churning work like that. Later that day, as Kafka makes it back home, he drops straight onto his bed without a second thought. The nasty chore he was stuck with leaves him feeling nauseous, and while trying to distract himself, he turns to the TV where Mina is being praised as a national hero by the media. The sight of her pulls him back to a time when he stood beside her, making bold promises that the two of them would wipe out every last kaiju together. Lighting up a cigarette, he sits there soaking in the bitterness of those dreams that never quite made it. Eventually, he switches off the TV and lets out a frustrated yell. But after a second, he pulls himself together and tries to convince himself that even cleaning up the mess is an important job. The next day, Kafka hops onto his scooter and rides off to work with his head pounding like crazy. Once he arrives, he meets up with his co-workers and gets introduced to a fresh recruit named Rino Ichikawa. The guy named Takuta mentions to Rino that Kafka once had the same dream of joining the defense force but ended up giving up on it. Rino cursorily looks at Kafka and asks with a serious tone why he threw in the towel. Kafka then shares how hard he pushed himself for that goal, until the harsh truth hit him that his abilities had limits, and says Rino will probably understand that too once he gets older. But Rino isn't having it, refusing to accept what he calls a lame excuse, and firmly states that he'll never back down like that. He walks off to get changed while Kafka's left standing there, clearly annoyed by the kid's attitude. Later, as the duties get announced, Kafka feels a brief spark of excitement hearing that the newbie is being handed the gruesome intestine cleanup. But that excitement quickly fades the moment he finds out he's been stuck with the same disgusting job all over again. When they finally get a break from the grind, Kafka plops down next to Rino to eat, but the poor newbie looks completely grossed out and nauseous. When Kafka asks what's wrong, Rino admits he doesn't have much of an appetite. Without missing a beat, Kafka tosses a multivitamin bottle at him, saying that stuff is exactly what Rino needs if he wants to survive the day on the job. Then Kafka pulls out some nose plugs and chases after Rino, trying to shove them in while causing a big commotion. They keep working until dusk, and when their shift finally ends, Rino approaches Kafka. True to his usual upbeat self, Kafka strikes a boxer's stance and asks if Rino is here for revenge. Instead, Rino thanks him and mentions that the age limit for Defense Force recruitment has been raised to 33, which means there's still hope for someone like Kafka at 32. Rino points out that he saw Kafka's sadness when he talked about quitting. Just as Rino turns to leave, Kafka smiles and thanks him, calling him a nice guy. Suddenly, a rogue kaiju appears and opens its massive mouth, aiming to swallow Rino whole in a single gulp. At the last second, Kafka lunges in, saving the boy but crashing hard in the process. He convinces Rino to run while he keeps the monster distracted, acting as a decoy. The monster chases him through a narrow street as he sprints, finally smashing through a glass window and leaping off a building. In that moment, Kafka recalls the time with Mina when they both lost everything to the Dan Kaiju. He tries to lift Mina's spirits by joking that all he really cared about was finishing some old Nintendo Pokémon games. Sitting together on a cliff overlooking their ruined homes, they shout in unison that they want to become Defense Force officers and turn it into a friendly rivalry to see who will become the coolest officer of all. Back in the present, Kafka mourns his failures while the monster keeps closing in on him. He grabs a rod and stands his ground, aiming to strike the kaiju's legs in an attempt to decapitate it, but the beast throws him aside with brutal force, leaving him groaning in pain. He struggles to get back on his feet, only for the monster to open its massive mouth wide again, nearly swallowing him whole. Just then, Reno saves the day by attacking the creature with a weapon he had brought along. Kafka yells at him, asking why he showed up, and Reno replies that he already notified the Defense Force and insists that he could never become a true officer if he just left a friend to die. These words echo Kafka's old dreams, giving him the strength to push himself up. Right as the monster prepares to finish off Reno, Kafka gathers all his courage and shouts, sounding like he's about to morph into a superhero or something. But before he can finish, a tiger suddenly leaps in and defeats the kaiju in a mere second. Mina appears behind the tiger, ordering everyone to take care of the injured. After being rescued, Kafka and Reno are taken to the hospital where they lie side by side, talking like old friends. Reno tells Kafka that if it weren't for him, he would have been dead already, praising how cool he is and insisting he should become a defense officer. Kafka punches himself on the head, scolding himself for having ignored his dream all along, and finally decides to give it another shot. But just as hope begins to rise, a flying bug-like kaiju appears before him. Kafka shouts as the monster announces it has found its target, and before he can react, the creature enters Kafka's mouth. He feels intense pain, and when Reno checks on him, what he finds is not Kafka, but a cool-looking humanoid kaiju. Both get in shock by what Kafka has become, yet Kafka tries to reassure Reno that he is still Kafka and not a kaiju. Before they can process what is happening, an old man arrives, shaking everyone up from head to toe, and quickly calls the Defense Force to report the appearance of a kaiju inside the hospital, even if it's the last thing he does before hitting the deathbed. The story flashes back to a time when Mina and Kafka sit side by side in the library, laughing over books before everything went wrong. Kafka nervously asks Mina not to tell his mom he reads manga, saying that if she finds out, the whole neighborhood will know in minutes. Mina smiles and thanks him for always being there. Back in the present, Mina's platoon gets tasked with taking down the small kaiju spotted at the hospital, so she orders everyone to gear up and move quickly to avoid casualties. The siren blares through Yokohama, warning the residents of the threat. One passerby hears the muffled alarm and grumbles about how the government still hasn't fixed the sound system. Back at the hospital, our duo and the old man are in full panic mode. Reno urges Kafka to flash a smile and convince the geezer it's all a mix-up or maybe just a Halloween costume. Kafka quickly follows through, but the creepy grin he makes is so terrifying that the old man faints on the spot. Kafka rushes over to check on him, and the moment his hand touches the wall, the whole thing along with the ceiling cracks up, scaring both Kafka and Reno even more. Kafka starts to worry that he really has turned into something dangerous. Just then, patients in the lobby catch sight of him. Kafka panics and thinks about jumping out the window to avoid causing more trouble, but the moment he touches the window with his kaiju hand, it crumbles completely. Reno bolts outside and Kafka tries to follow, but even a small jump sends him flying high into the air. The Defense Force gets the alert that the kaiju has escaped from Yokohama Hospital and is now making its way toward an already evacuated area. As Reno runs alongside him, he finds himself struggling to process the fact that his senior has somehow turned into a kaiju. When he glances back to ask if it's really still the same Kafka, he sees that things have taken an even weirder turn as Kafka now looks even more terrifying, with tentacles and other freaky extensions jutting out his body. Reno asks if this is some kind of special burst mode, but it's clear that Kafka himself has no clue what's going on. Right then, a worm-like projection suddenly shoots out from his mouth and swallows a bird alive, which leaves both of them absolutely horrified. Kafka somehow manages to shift back into his humanoid form, but the moment he settles down, he turns to Reno and says they've got a serious problem. Already overwhelmed with everything going on, Reno asks what now, only for Kafka to explain that he really needs to pee and there's no holding it anymore. Reno checks him over and quickly realizes that the usual equipment for peeing is nowhere to be found. And just like that, Kafka loses control and ends up releasing the liquid from a place that absolutely no normal human should pee from. Kafka drops to the ground in misery, trying to recover from the emotional damage, while Reno does his best to get him moving again. Our guy lies there, crushed over the thought that his dream is now officially over since there's no way he could ever join the Defense Force like this. That's when Reno notices a restricted zone nearby and begins pushing the barrier aside, figuring that it might be the perfect place for the two of them to hide. Kafka's ears suddenly ring as he grabs his head, claiming he can feel something moving underground. And in that moment, he realizes he's sensing a kaiju. At the same time, the surveillance team alerts the 3rd Division of the Defense Force, the same group that's hunting Kafka, and they quickly scatter into position. Kafka tells Reno that this kaiju feels like the one that attacked them before, and the two dash toward the restricted zone. Meanwhile, a little girl and her mother are attacked by another kaiju, and the mom ends up trapped under rubble as the creature lunges forward, jaws wide. Just before it strikes, Kafka crashes in and knocks the monster away with a solid punch, then starts making funny faces to calm the kid, though all he manages to do is terrify her even more. Reno shows up and together they move the mother to safety. Just then, the bad kaiju gets back up only to get obliterated when Kafka punches it with enough force to send it flying and explode in the air, making its bodily fluids come down like raindrops. Kafka kneels beside the scared girl and softly says he'll be gone soon and the defense force will handle the rest, but just as he turns to go, she thanks him, sparking a memory of Mina in his mind. Reno warns him to run before the disposal unit shows up, but Kafka stays rooted, staring forward before declaring he's done giving up, and as he says it, his kaiju head disintegrates, revealing his human face underneath. When Mina arrives at the scene, she feels confused by everything that just happened and approaches the little girl to try and get some information from her. The girl hesitates at first, but when Mina promises she will wipe out all the kaiju, the girl asks her to promise not to hurt the good kaiju who saved her mom. This unexpected request leaves Mina flabbergasted, and the so-called missing kaiju receives the code name Kaiju number 8, with a super ugly face chosen to represent it. 3 months pass, and Kafka becomes the first kaiju to ever escape the defense force, causing every officer to be on constant alert searching for him. The supervisor of the kaiju's mess cleaning facility hands 2 letters to Reno, saying they came from the defense force and asking him to give Kafka's letter to him as well. Reno checks his own results and finds he passed the first exam. He then takes the other letter to Kafka and on his way opens it, smiling when he sees Kafka pass, before running to share the news with his senior. Just as Reno arrives and delivers the good news, he suddenly gets angry and attacks Kafka when he sees him in his kaiju form. Apparently, Kafka still hasn't fully mastered shapeshifting and quickly realizes his mistake and tries to morph his face back, but forgets to hide the fangs. Reno explodes in his ears, telling him to be more careful since his kaiju form is famous all over the media. As the story rewinds, it reveals that after the incident, they rushed to the hospital and made up a story about running away when the kaiju showed up. Reno hoped they had fooled the defense force, but Kafka's kaiju form had spread across the media like wildfire, all thanks to the old geezer. Reno then hands Kafka a letter and finds out it's always the second round where Kafka fails. Reno asks him if he's ready to take the exam with his current body, warning that if he messes up, he might be killed on sight. Kafka stands with determination and says he cannot let the last 3 months of hard work go to waste, and considering he's already 32, this might be his very last chance to chase his dream. Reno tells him that even if Kafka fails, he won't quit and they'll take each other on as rivals. Kafka pulls out a water bottle but struggles to open it, so he tries harder and accidentally morphs back into a kaiju. Reno scolds him, telling him to skip the exam, but Kafka drops to his knees, arguing that he will manage until the exam time comes. 10 days pass in the blink of an eye, and finally it's time for the exam. Ardu parks their truck in a huge parking lot, but just before they can get inside, a little chick with yellow hair shows up calling our guy an old man. Kafka flies into a rage, arguing how a 32-year-old like him cannot be an old man. She gets straight to the point and asks him to move his monster sweeper truck because she wants to park her car there. When Kafka refuses, saying there are plenty of other empty spots, the girl says 5 is her lucky number. When Kafka still refuses, she uses the strength from her expensive suit to lift his truck and toss it aside. Reno asks who she is, and the girl flexes, saying she is Kekoru Shanomiya and her hobby is killing kaiju. Kekoru then approaches our guy and tells him he smells like kaiju. After hearing that, our guy feels pretty pissed, but Reno steps in and says they handled the kaiju trash, which makes her even more curious about why they show up. Her attention shifts instantly when Kafka casually lifts his truck, and she assumes he must have a suit too. He turns around and introduces himself as her daddy, telling her to remember the name. His smug frown disappears the moment her ninja butler parks in the spot, and then she acknowledges Kafka and challenges him to impress her in the test. While she walks away with her men in black, he gets hyped up, but Reno asks why he decides to use his power in public, though Kafka brags that he hides his claws pretty well. After that, they walk toward the venue, and our main guy promises not to mess up this final shot to join Mina, but the hype dies quickly when he pants like a dog with asthma, even though he trains every day. The first part of the test checks fitness, followed by the aptitude test that Reno says depends entirely on genetics, so his best shot is a big score in the fitness part. Kafka soon figures out that all this training means nothing because he now moves like a fat and crusty 30-year-old, but he refuses to cheat with his powers and lands at 6 from the bottom. Kekoru throws her rank sheet at him and smugly roasts the old man so hard he wishes he could vanish and rot in a hole forever. Reno feels shocked that Kafka avoids using powers even once, so Kafka explains that it feels unfair to others and then rants about how he could destroy everyone if he uses just 1% of his true power. Meanwhile, Soshiro shows a list of the candidates, and as soon as Mina spots her childhood crush, she asks him to give his thoughts. He says that of all of them, the ones who catches snake eyes are Izumo Haruchi, who destroys everyone in university, then Haru, who has wild teeth and serious muscle, and finally Kaguraji, who flipped off the military to join the Kaiju Defense Force. Last on his list is the 16-year-old prodigy straight out of California from Freedom Land who skipped grade with her insane talent, Shinomiya Keikoru. While she walks around looking all smug, Haru swears he's gonna crush her completely while Izumo and Kaguraji decide to wait and see what she brings to the table. Reno points out that the competition looks real tough, and when Keikoru asks if he now sees her greatness, he holds onto her in amazement until her guards wreck him for diddling a pure girl with those old man hands. The others look at him with full disgust while Keikoru smugly says he keeps losing more aura points every time they meet. After that, he starts to wonder how he should get one up on her, so Reno tells him he has a shot since he knows so much about kaiju from his past, and that kind of knowledge holds the same weight as actually killing kaiju, which also explains why he joined the disposal squad. Later, in front of a massive gate, Captain Soshiro introduces himself and says the next part happens inside, then opens the doors to reveal kaiju waiting for them since they will be hunting those for the test. A kaiju charges at them full speed, and Kafka almost gets a heart attack, collapsing onto his dump truck while everyone else stays calm. Marking the third time, Keikoru laughs at his clown self. Captain Soshiro explains that all of them receive Izumo battle suits crafted from kaiju muscle fibers, with which Reno immediately forms a good synergy. Since it is the top weapon humans use to fight kaiju, the Defense Corps first checks each person's raw potential. Reno pulls a decent 8%, while Izumo and the others all cross 10%, which stuns Lab Lady Okanoji because it is rare to see more than one person a year break that mark. Her jaw crashes to the floor when she sees Keikoru sitting way above everyone else with a crazy 46% unleashed potential, already putting her near platoon leader rank. That gives Reno a rough case of FOMO, but Captain Soshiro tells him 8% is actually solid for a first-timer and jokes that at least he is not at 0, then laughs harder saying nobody has ever had 0. Hearing that, the commander starts laughing like crazy while Kafka tries to squeeze out some potential without causing an accident in his pants. Kafka tries to figure out the secret behind unlocking his potential while Keikoru fumes hard, watching him suck like a dad joke after showing off in the parking lot. Once everyone gets into their suits, Captain Budget Orochimaru announces that their test starts now. He explains there are 36 small-time kaiju and one big Hanju boss hiding inside the city, and they are all equipped with anti-kaiju rifles to hunt them. While drones follow each candidate and activate a defense shield, the second things get too wild, which also means an instant fail. After that, the round kicks off and Keikoru blasts past everyone like she owns the place, then starts stacking up kills like it is no big deal just to flex on them. Meanwhile, Kafka starts freaking out over how they are supposed to compete, and just then Soshiro announces that Commander Mina came to watch them personally. Hearing that, Kafka locks in and realizes the drones probably look at more than kill counts, so he and Reno decide to play support instead. They see Izumo and other struggling NPCs fail to damage a thick-skinned Yojo, so Kafka jumps in and notices he has seen that one before, which helps him figure out why they carry grenades. He throws a stun bomb straight at its ugly face fearlessly, making it flinch hard since its hearing is 10 times stronger than its eyesight. After that, he points out that its belly has the weakest armor, letting Izumo and the others finish the job fast. Luhair says thanks for the save, and even Captain Soshiro shows a bit of interest, while Kafka's confidence hits new highs because of all the time he spends cleaning kaiju bodies inside and out. But reality comes swinging when a Yoju smacks his side and sends him flying into a building, triggering his suit alarms, so Soshiro tells Okanoji to hit that shield button at any moment. As the Yoju gets closer, Kafka knows using the shield means a failure, so he tries with everything he has not to mess up in front of Mina, and right before the kaiju chomps him down, it suddenly turns into Swiss cheese. Standing on top of it, Keikoru says again how disappointed she feels about his useless self and tells him to stay down in the dirt while she handles the rest like a queen. That tiny spark of motivation seems to push Kafka forward, but Reno notices that his leg looks totally wrecked, and right then, Captain Soshiro steps in to say his body has major damage with even some vital organs affected, which throws Kafka into a pit of self-hate over his 0% potential being the only thing stopping him from standing beside his dream girl. He ignores Soshiro's warning and decides only he gets to say when to quit, so he rises on that broken leg powered by nothing but raw willpower, testosterone, and straight-up brute force. His potential climbs by 0.1% while he stares Mina right in the eye and swears to never throw in the towel. Everyone watches him frozen as he acts like everything feels totally fine. Soshiro says he will press the shield trigger if it gets risky, which Kafka agrees with before he coughs up blood and tells Reno to go on without him. But his bro reaches out because they agree to face it all as a team. While the control room loses it laughing, the two idiots combo up with a piggyback move that feels insanely cringe but lets Kafka make big brain calls while Reno executes them with his power suit. Kafka then tells him to tail Kikoru, who's out there racking up scores like she's Ronaldo against an old man with a stroke. The blonde keeps hopping from Yoju to Yoju and destroys them all like a boss before putting a bullet right through the main kaiju's ugly head and ending it clean. As the Hanju collapses, the lab lady quickly announces that the boss is down and the test now ends, so everyone should head out. Kafka feels like he's about to explode since she finished too fast and a whole combo meant nothing. While Okunoji asks the captain for the signal, he tells Commander Mina that Kikoru is proving her worth big time, and thanks to her, barely anyone got seriously hurt or unsubscribed from life. Back on the battlefield, Kikoru looks up at the sky and wonders if she's perfect enough for her daddy to notice, and turns around to rub it in Kafka's face, but she suddenly senses something weird behind her and blood instantly shoots from her chest. Meanwhile, Kafka catches his breath and tells Reno how much of a monster Kikoru is until he panics because the dead kaiju start moving again. At the same time, Kikoru seems to have blocked the hit with her suit and asks the humanoid what it is, leaving it surprised to see her alive and somehow healed. As it pets the Hanju, she takes aim, but the creepy thing tells her not to bite off more than she can chew and shoots enough bullets to take down a whole school and shuts her down. Chaos breaks out in the control room about her status, and everyone freaks out as the kaiju comes back to life, now at the crazy magnitude of 6. Since no single officer can handle that mess, Mina orders all shields to be turned on and gets ready to head out with Soshiro. On the other hand, Kikoru refuses to back off like a scared kid because no one dies while she's around. She screams she is the perfect slayer until a Hanju pulls a Bruce Lee kick and knocks her into the ground. That triggers her childhood memories where her name always sat at the top, but unlike her friends who got love from their dads just for passing, hers was always gone and her butler said he would surely be proud. When she finally talks to him though, the man says it is expected of her to be the best and she should stop celebrating small wins and work harder to not take an L next time. Even with a busted arm, she keeps going through the pain thinking about her dad's wise words until her gun falls and the kaiju grows its weapons back to shoot her down with a laser. Commander Mina and Soshiro Naruto run at full speed to the spot, hoping they get there in time, but Kikoru gives up seeing the insane attack charge up in front of her. She says goodbye and tells her dad sorry for not being his perfect girl when the Hanju fires the blast, but then the last person she expects shows up with a stupid grin. She sits there like a rag doll watching him go full transformation mode and look cool as hell. Meanwhile, the others run for safety, and Reno helps out where he can till someone warns them not to go near Kikoru's fight, so he turns to his senpai who is already gone. He is shocked at first, but then realizes it's only natural that he transformed and went to save her. On the flip side, Kikoru asks Kafka what he even is, so he gets on his knees and begs her to keep his secret, but says first he has a naughty kaiju to take out. Back in the control room, Okunoji alerts the commander that there is now a kaiju with a level 9 signal, which the captain finds hard to believe because that would make it the strongest in history. Just then, Kafka goes full Saitama and charges up because he plans to end it with one punch. With just one punch, he eviscerates the entire soul out of that kaiju like a boss, and then bathes in the blood of his enemy as Kikoru stares in shock. Kikoru wonders if he is just some senile old man as he cleanly slices up a Yoju creeping behind her and tells her she will be just fine with the warmest grin on his face, something her daddy never showed her. While he scolds her about taking risks, Reno arrives and says the same thing to him, and as the two bicker like a couple, she collapses face first on the ground. A few hours later, Captain Soshiro and Mina reach the location and feel confused about what could cause such chaos while Okunoji reports that the last 3 candidates also made it out alive. Soshiro says he doubts even Kikoru can do that and points out that the damage looks a lot like the scene from 3 months ago. Later, Kafka lies wrapped up in the hospital and feels pissed that Kikoru gets the best treatment while he only gets patched up. Still, seeing all these legends around reminds him that there is always someone better than him out there, but he claims that only fires him up more, unaware that Mina stands outside hearing every word. She then enters and thanks him for carrying Kikoro before dipping out fast, while Kafka holds back from saying her name until he earns a place by her side. Meanwhile, in the ICU, Kikoro feels uneasy about her dad and jumps up thinking she sees his shadow. Captain Soshiro thanks her for saving lives, which makes her think of Kafka. Still, when he asks if she didn't do it, she admits she did. On the flip side, the humanoid Kaiju is surprised hearing there were no deaths after reviving the Hanju and guesses the so-called captains on the news must be pretty strong, and then shows interest in the mentioned Kaiju number 8. It then gets a call, so it slowly morphs into a man and tells the team he's late because of some really spicy Taco Bell. As the men walk away with it, the thing almost fumbles the transformation, but the men are none the wiser. While Kafka and Reno keep arguing over their usual nonsense, their supervisor walks in holding the envelopes with their results. Both our guys sit at the table staring at the envelopes that hold the weight of their futures, and while Kafka knows this is his final shot, he quietly wonders if this path will finally lead him back to his childhood crush as he opens the envelope and finds himself frozen with his mouth wide open in disbelief at what he sees inside. Later at the headquarters, all the new recruits gather for their entrance ceremony, bracing themselves for the usual boring speeches. And as they glance around at each other's faces, nothing really stands out since most of them were already expected to be selected from the start. Kikoro makes her entrance and is asked to take the oath on behalf of the batch, being the top student, while Izumo and Kaguraji seem locked in a rivalry that's clearly just getting started. Around the same time, Iharu bumps into our junior and the two share quick introductions without much fuss. Before long, Captain Mina arrives and heads straight to the stage to begin the induction, calling Kikoro up to speak on behalf of the recruits as she steps forward and delivers the oath confidently. Mina thanks the yellow-haired ponytail for her efforts during the exam and mentions that the reason no lives were lost was because of her, though her eyes quietly begin scanning the crowd with a heavy expression, searching for Kafka, knowing deep down that the real credit belongs to him. As she clenches her teeth, clearly ready to demand answers about his creepy transformation, Kafka casually strolls in late, and the second he does, Kikoro's face lights up bright red, while everyone's attention turns straight to him. As the story winds back a little, Kafka's fate hangs in the balance as the selection board reviews his results, discovering that not only did he score the lowest in the fitness exam, but somehow managed to land a perfect 0 on the aptitude test. And just when the panel is about to dismiss his application entirely, Captain Soshiro steps in and decides to vouch for him, arguing that while the guy might be a completely average idiot, he still managed to identify enemy weak points, support his teammates, and most importantly, made him laugh a lot, which, in his opinion, counted for something. Okanoji immediately protests the ridiculous reason for hiring someone, prompting the vice captain to compromise by taking Kafka in as a cadet instead of an officer and deciding to personally train him a bit more. Back in the present, Mina announces that Kafka has been accepted as a cadet and that this is the reason she had him sit out the induction ceremony, which causes a wave of quiet relief among many of the new recruits who seem glad to hear he is still around. Soon after, the vice captain turns to the commander and invites her to deliver her speech. Hearing the captain's speech fills Kafka with so much emotion that he ends up shouting her first name across the ceremony hall, boldly declaring that he will soon stand by her side, leaving everyone around stunned and whispering in confusion about why a newbie is casually calling the captain by her first name. While the words clearly strike a chord with his childhood crush, she keeps her composure and upholds protocol by ordering him to do 100 push-ups as punishment for disrespecting a senior officer. As Kafka panics over the sudden punishment, the vice captain bursts into laughter and teases Mina for going easy on the guy, but instead of replying, she simply walks away with a faint smile on her face. Okanoji grumbles about how Kafka just arrived and has already turned into the squad's comic relief, but Soshiro calmly responds that it's exactly the kind of energy their team needs, since things can get a little too grim sometimes. However, beneath that lighthearted excuse lies the real reason Soshiro brought Kafka in, which goes back to the time they received a 9.8 fortitude kaiju signal and someone's vitals vanished at the exact moment, making him suspicious that Kafka might be something far more unusual than he appears, and so he decides to keep him close and observe. Meanwhile, Kafka barely finishes his push-ups and collapses to the ground, only to be approached by Kikoro, who tells him they need to talk in private. Iharu, ever the clown, blurts out if this is a love confession and causes a minor scene, but Kikoro simply drags Kafka to a nearby restaurant to get the answers she's looking for. There she listens in disbelief as Kafka confesses that he ate a kaiju and turned into one, prompting her to mock him for having an appetite strong enough to down a monster, though Kafka quickly defends himself, saying he never meant to eat it in the first place. When he wonders aloud if he should report himself to the defense force and ask for help, Kikoro firmly shuts down the idea and explains that if they ever find out, they will turn him into a lab rat and subject him to all sorts of horrifying tests. going on to explain that when a kaiju is strong enough to be given a number, its remains are used to craft weapons. The horror of it all finally overwhelms Kafka, who leaps at her in desperation, begging her to keep his secret, and after a moment of thought, the stern girl agrees but makes one thing clear, that if he ever hurts anyone, she'll personally make sure he's taken down. The next day during the fire training exercise, Reno takes the lead and manages to set a new personal best with his unleashed potential now reaching 18%. Iharu watches closely and starts to worry that Reno might have finally caught up to him, but his nerves settle once he sees that his own combat power still ranks slightly higher. As the others take their turns, it becomes clear that everyone has made some kind of progress. Even Kafka, after all his struggles, achieves a new personal record as his unleashed power finally climbs to 1, which sends him sprinting toward Kekoru in pure excitement. However, the moment is short-lived as the vice captain shuts him down right away, warning that if his numbers stay this low, he will be kicked out before long. Without missing a beat, Soshiro calls for everyone to run 10 laps as part of their routine, and when the group groans in protest, he raises it to 15 without blinking. After wrapping up their intense training for the day, the squad heads straight into a hot bath, hoping to soothe their aching muscles and relax a little. As expected, the moment they settle in, the place erupts into chaos with everyone getting loud and playful, each one trying to squeeze in some fun before the day ends. As things start to settle down a little, the guys shift from splashing around to talking about why they chose to join the defense force. One says he owed his life to the commander who once saved him, while another admits he fell for her strength and grace the moment he saw her in a poster. When the spotlight lands on Kafka, he hesitates but ends up letting it slip that he and the captain go way back as childhood friends, and that it all began with a promise they made back then. Realizing what he just revealed, Kafka panics and tries to slip away unnoticed. But the rest of the guys pounce on him like a pack of zombies, desperate to get every juicy detail out of him. Later, when the girls step out of their bath, they're met with a bizarre sight of all the guys passed out on the ground, barely clinging to consciousness with towels draped over them while Reno does his best to cool them off. Turns out the brilliant idea of soaking in the hot bath for way too long backfired, leaving the whole squad completely drained and sprawled out like overcooked noodles. Days pass by as the entire platoon endures tough and grueling training every single day. They push through all kinds of exercises while still finding time to have fun in between. One night after everyone has gone to bed, Kafka stays in the library burning the midnight oil. Soshiro appears and asks if all this effort is for the captain. Kafka zones out, wondering how he found out, and the vice captain explains that he overheard him talking in the bath, reminding him that every word spoken in this dorm is recorded. On top of that, he suspects Kafka is aiming for his vice captain position and warns him that he will never lose his place next to the captain. As Soshiro turns to leave, the alarm sounds and he tells Kafka to get ready because it is already time for his first mission. At the operations room, Commander Mina asks the lab lady for an update while drones fly around urging citizens to evacuate from the disaster. Okanoji explains that the Hanju already bursts out from underground and charges its way, leaving a swarm of Yoju babies behind it. Knowing the only option is to wipe it out completely, the red-haired lady Nakanashima suggests luring it to Sector Bravo and finishing it there. Commander Mina hears that and says she'll take the shot on the big Hanju, tells the others to handle the cleanup, and wishes everyone good luck. Out on the road, truckloads of recruits roll out locked and loaded for their first mission ever, and Kekoru watches Kafka like she still can't believe a man that useless turns out to be Kaiju number 8. Later, Kafka gets into position as all the recruits quietly watch the massive beast barreling toward them. Captain Soshiro tells them the real problem is that it cranks out babies faster than Alon's Dogecoin, so their job is to make sure none of those critters cross the checkpoint. In the end, he makes it clear that senior officers are already stationed ahead, which means the recruits are the final line of defense. After checking that no one has questions, he tells them to get out there and prove themselves. Sometime later, Okanoji mentions that Commander Mina needs 8 minutes to reach her camping spot. After hearing that, Kafka tells Reno he's set on proving himself this time since he knows he won't get another chance if he gets fired in 3 months, and even though his legs are shaking, he admits he's honestly excited. Right after that, the critters start crawling out of their broods, so the recruits leap off the roof, while Kafka climbs down like some knockoff Peter Parker. A chopper finally drops the commander at her sniping spot, so Okanoji tells everyone to lure the Hanju into her line of fire, and the army starts blasting it with missiles to pull its focus. From a distance, Captain Soshiro tells the recruits to stay sharp, and Kafka answers with his 1% unleashed combat power, though the first Yoju smacks him straight into the trash. A senior then starts clowning the recruits, which ticks Kekoru off, so after he tells them to go hide home and suck her thumb, she gives a smug reply and then wipes out the entire horde by herself. while everyone watches her in shock as a single thumbs up from Daddy Kafka makes her blush so hard her suit tells her to calm down. Meanwhile, Iharu pops in and lands the final shots on a creeper the others helped weaken, then starts bragging about it to Reno, who one-shots the same kind by himself and humbles the redhead with his big brain move, thinking he still has a long way to go if he wants to stop his senpai from transforming. At the same time, Kaguraji and Izumo wipe out the critters and leave their seniors so embarrassed that they start whining to the platoon leader. She says she's honestly surprised to see how hot the newbies this year are as well, and then tells them how Captain Soshiro mentioned that this year's recruits are just built different with their raw potential and constant urge to outdo each other. Hearing the lab lady report that everything's going smoothly across the board, Kaka feels both relieved and annoyed that he's still completely useless, but then he remembers his senior's advice to stay safe and lean into his strengths. So he shocks everyone by digging through the mushroom monster's body and cutting deeper to find the core, only to realize it's not in the usual spot. Right after, he notices something sketchy and reports to Captain Soshiro that the weak point is on the side, but also points out they got balls, meaning if they don't destroy everyone, many more monsters will spawn. Impressed by the info, Soshiro gives him a pat and tells Okonoji to spread the word fast. Feeling proud of his contribution, Kaka rushes off to make himself even more useful and earn a spot next to Mina. But just as he gets in the zone, a massive explosion cuts his thoughts short. The big boss finally reaches the right spot, so the military bombs it while foot soldiers lay cover fire to hold it down. From a rooftop, the commander sets up her big black blaster and after clearance recalls Kaka's promise to be a cooler soldier, deciding to show off her aura. As the gun charges and she locks in, Soshiro tells Kaka to stay sharp while the glowing missile rips through the oversized fungus, leaving it full of holes. Kaka's eyes nearly pop out when she fires a second shot to finish it off, then lands a third just to be sure. Everyone in the control room celebrates, but when she asks for a fourth clearance and Okonoji talks back, she reminds him it's not a request. Kaka is just as blown away by Mina's hip vibes, so Soshiro asks if he really thinks he's worthy of standing by her, to which he smugly asks why Temu Orochimaru thinks he even comes close. Soshiro admits he isn't as good as her and says that while she's great at blasting the big ones, he proves there's pretty much no one deadlier than him at handling medium to small targets as he slices up the creeper, ambushing him like sushi. Kafka gets shocked, not even seeing his katana, as the captain says he comes from a family of samurai, then cuts the talk short, saying now that the mother's dead, it's time for the babies to swarm in. The army of baby mushroom monsters rolls out endlessly like a clown car, so Soshiro tells the newbies it's their time to shine and take out the trash, which slightly intimidates Izumo. Seeing them wimp out, the seniors start trash-talking, so Nakanoshima jumps in and sparks a little fire under the top two recruits who head out even as Lab Lady notes they're nearly out of stamina and running on fumes, which is exactly what Soshiro thinks brings out those fit to be captains. Though Kakoru is the only worthy one so far, he sees Reno as a strong runner-up and Iharu notices it too. With that, the two take off to hunt monsters, but on the way they spot a man in a cleanup crew uniform. And when Iharu asks why he didn't evacuate, the man starts rambling about his scheme getting ruined and wonders if someone on the defense team has deep kaiju knowledge, before turning around and asking if the boys know anything about it with fungus all over his face. A little farther away, Kafka and Reno's old co-workers from the cleaning company are huddled around a telescope, trying to catch a glimpse of their former teammates. The chaos on the battlefield makes it clear why every cleanup company from Tokyo and Kanagawa has been summoned. Their supervisor arrives and asks about the new recruit, and Takuda casually jokes that the guy must have locked himself in the bathroom again. Meanwhile, that same new recruit, who is actually the creepy humanoid kaiju in disguise, is now standing right in front of Iharu and Reno. Annoyed by their presence, he suddenly tries to shoot Iharu in the heart but narrowly misses. Iharu collapses, bleeding heavily and screaming in pain, and Reno quickly tells him to use his suit to stop the bleeding. Just then, the monster reveals its true form, the same one that had previously taken down Kakoru. Reno scrambles to contact headquarters for backup, only to realize that the creature has already cut off all signals in the area. After getting hit hard twice, Reno recalls Kakoru's warning and focuses on the monster's finger movements, managing to dodge the next attack just in time. As things spiral out of control, he somehow convinces Iharu to retreat and bring help. Reno knows he cannot win this fight, but thinking about his duty as a defense officer, he charges straight at the kaiju with everything he has, determined to buy Iharu enough time to escape. As Iharu tries to make a run for it, he stumbles and falls, frustration bubbling up as he realizes that Reno seems to be surpassing him while he remains stuck at just 20% of his unleashed potential. Fueled by this feeling, he charges back into the fray and saves Reno at the last second, right before the humanoid kaiju can blast him away. When Reno protests, Iharu snaps back that this time it will be he who saves Reno, not the other way around. reminding him that without his help earlier, he would already be dead. Sensing their plan to get Iharu out of the area, the kaiju declares that no one escapes from his zone, shutting down their last hope of fleeing. Realizing they are trapped, Reno and Iharu decide to fight together and bring down the monstrous threat. The kaiju fires another shot at Iharu, but this time Iharu has caught on to his attack pattern and avoids it. Seizing the opening, Reno unleashes more of his power than ever before, pushing to break past his own limits and take the shot. As the smoke clears, what stands before them is a towering wall of dead kaiju bodies. But before they can catch their breath, the humanoid freak bursts out from one of the corpses and shoots Reno at close range, delivering a brutal blow that leaves him badly injured, possibly beyond recovery. In the meantime, the vice captain receives word that both Iharu and Reno have gone missing, and that even their vitals are no longer showing on the radar. Kafka immediately grows tense, worry spreading across his face as the weight of the news sinks in. Just then, Kakoru arrives and confirms what he had feared all along: the dangerous humanoid kaiju has appeared. Back on the other side, Reno collapses with his entire body burning in pain. He tries to stop the bleeding and pushes himself up, only for the humanoid freak to lunge at him again. Just in time, Iharu intervenes, diverting the monster's attention. Shouting for help, he calls out for someone to save his friend Reno. And just before both of them can meet their end, Kaiju number 8 crashes into the scene, punching the freak so hard that it splits his head from his body. Seeing Kafka in his kaiju form, Reno grows gloomy, frustrated that despite everything, he couldn't prevent this from happening. Kafka holds his friend and stands tall, while Iharu freezes in fear at the sight of yet another humanoid kaiju. Meanwhile, the freak regenerates and gets back on his feet, realizing that this is kaiju number 8. Kafka quickly hands Reno over to security and charges at the enemy. The bad kaiju questions why Kafka is attacking him when they should be on the same side, then launches an all-out assault, revealing that he had been going easy on Reno and Iharu the whole time. When Kafka sees the same attacking tentacles that were used on Reno, he snaps. With controlled fury, he wipes out the monster's attacks, and even a wall of kaiju bodies fails to stop him. Kafka keeps pressing forward and finally unleashes a massive attack that sends the enemy flying with its core now fully exposed. Just as he is about to finish the job and erase the kaiju for good, 2 officers arrive at the worst moment and ruin everything by alerting the entire team about kaiju number 8's presence. They explain that the humanoid kaiju matches the description of the missing kaiju number 8, which instantly alerts the vice captain. Without wasting time, he commands a dispatch unit to be sent immediately. All the chaos gives the humanoid freak enough room to regenerate, and before leaving, it throws out a warning that it now knows everything about Kafka and defeating him will be easier the next time they cross paths. As it attacks the humans while making its escape, Kafka steps in and takes the hit himself. Though frustrated that the kaiju managed to flee, he finds some relief in knowing that at least his friends are safe. While slipping away through a narrow alley, Kafka suddenly senses someone behind him. Turning around, he sees the vice captain, who instantly recognizes him as kaiju number 8. The vice captain informs the team that he has engaged the target and requests that the limiter on his suit be lifted. His unleashed potential climbs to a staggering 92% as he prepares to neutralize the humanoid kaiju standing right in front of him. All warmed up, Captain Soshiro gets ready to strike while Kafka tries to think of an escape until a slash suddenly appears on his shoulder, making it clear he's in serious danger. Soshiro sends him flying and goes full sword ninjutsu at supersonic speed, slowly but surely slicing through Kafka's rock-solid shell with moves Kafka didn't think even Kakoru could pull off. After that, another stab to the chest fully exposes his core, but his insane regeneration keeps him alive. Kafka tries to make a break for it, but the samurai goes full Levite, and watching him dodge his attacks at lightning speed. Soshiro figures he's at least a magnitude 8, which makes him a great kaiju. With that, he charges his blades and launches an invisible double slice that cuts through Kafka's leg like butter, then follows with his real strike aimed at the core, which Kafka catches using his side teeth before charging an ultimate, only to blast it on Soshiro's katana, leaving the captain untouched. Feeling let down, he reports kaiju number 8 escaped, which makes Kakoru wonder if such a monster is worth trusting, though her face lights up when she spots his wrinkly old face. After that, she sharply reminds him he's just an old fart with arthritis and has no business trying to fight the captain. Meanwhile, the man in question stays quiet until Commander Mina asks for his thoughts on number 8. He says it's clearly on the same level as the great kaiju from 5 years ago and believes number 9 is likely just as dangerous, though what really catches his interest is how it attacked his weapon instead of him and fought like a human. Right then, one of the senior soldiers reports that the same humanoid from the test reappeared, only this time it's wearing human skin, which leaves everyone stunned. The heavily wounded humanoid then stops a car and hijacks it GTA style after eating the owner to heal itself, wondering how it should go about taking down number 8 as it drives into the sunset. The next day, Reno wakes up in the hospital and feels relieved to see his senpai alive, then thanks Kafka for saving him, not realizing Iharu is in the bed right next to him. Iharu drops compliment after compliment about number 8's power and mad aura, and Kafka takes it all in with a big smile. That night, a party celebrates Reno and Haru getting discharged, and when Kafka calls room service, Izumo's army of servants shows up with a surprise gourmet feast. Kakoro explains it's because he's a rich boy heir to Izumo Technologies, which rakes in billions every year selling to the Defense Corps and even makes more than her family. She then smugly admits she asked him to arrange the party knowing the food would fire. After that, the captain raises a toast to everyone's first successful mission while Reno watches the wholesome vibes quickly spiral into absolute chaos as everyone starts trash-talking the person next to them, shocked to see even Kafka jumping in without hesitation. The captain explains that there is a tradition to roast each other's messed-ups after battle to help others work on fixing their flaws the next time. Later, the captain shuts down the madness to make a big announcement where he reveals that thanks to his outstanding contributions in battle, Kafka is now promoted to a real officer and officially welcomed to the team as one of their own. Everyone bursts with happiness, and even a usually cold Kaguraji looks genuinely glad since the old man's help during the mission kept the casualty count at 0. The very next day, Mina personally places a badge on Kafka's coat, welcomes him again with authority, and tells him not to get cocky because he's still far from being worthy of standing beside her on the field. That makes him happy because she remembers their old promise. She then adds with confidence that Soshiro was the one who recommended him, so he better step up and not let the man down. That night, Kafka decides to call it a day in the library, but on his way out, he suddenly notices a light still on. Inside the training room, he watches Captain Soshiro pose with his jack muscles and then perfectly replicate his fight with him down to every breath, this time slaying his imaginary kaiju number 8 dummy not once but 2 times in a row, making Kafka nearly pee his pants as his knees give out. When he asks what the man's training on, and the captain replies he's working on a one-shot technique made specifically for hunting number 8 and confesses he's annoyed he didn't go all out from the start or use the 6th technique that would have torn number 8's core to absolute shreds. He goes on saying there's no one except him who can take down a great kaiju like number 8, so in his eyes he's the only man for the job. Meanwhile, high above the clouds, a whole pack of monster birds led by a demonic-looking humanoid gets ready to attack the base. The vice captain sits quietly in the library, digging deeper into the case of kaiju number 8, puzzled by how its attacks seem more human than kaiju. His thoughts drift to the creepy humanoid freak who could shapeshift and blend in like one of them, and the more he thinks about it, the more uneasy he grows about what the future might hold between kaiju and humans. Meanwhile, our guy is chilling alone on a rooftop, thinking about the vice captain and how he can afford to let him down, when out of nowhere, a massive shower of shooting stars begins to rain from the sky. The shooting stars turn out to be kaiju, and in no time they swarm the entire base. To make things worse, each of them has a fortitude level above 6, and is classified as Hanju, making them far from ordinary threats. With the captain currently away, Soshiro steps up and orders everyone into position, realizing that the kaiju seem to be targeting the base directly this time. The fact that so many have shown up together, despite usually attacking alone, makes things suspicious. Watching the base go up in flames and spotting nearly a dozen wyvern-type kaiju flying overhead, Kafka quickly contacts the vice captain to report that something feels off. These monsters never attack as a group. The vice captain immediately understands what that means. Someone even stronger must be leading them this time. As Soshiro pushes forward, he soon comes face to face with the approaching leader. The new dragonic humanoid kaiju speaks in the human tongue, shocking everyone. It looks around and asks if the vice captain is the strongest one here, then calmly declares him as its target. Soshiro is immediately notified that this creature has a fortitude level of around 8.3, placing it in the Daikaiju class. Without hesitation, the vice captain hands over the responsibility of dealing with the other kaiju to his subordinates and prepares to face this new threat himself. The Daikaiju suddenly lunges forward and Soshiro barely manages to dodge his powerful blow. The beast roars out commands to the other kaiju, taking full control of the battlefield and then charges again with terrifying speed. One glance is enough for Soshiro to understand that a single direct hit could end it all for him. He tries slashing through the monster's skin only to realize just how impossibly tough it is. As the rest of the team engages the other kaiju, our guide quickly contacts them, pointing out that the monsters have thinner skin at the back and are most vulnerable there. The team tries to adjust their strategy, but the kaiju start coordinating with each other, making it difficult to get behind them. Just then, the blonde-haired prodigy arrives and reveals her brand new weapon, slicing through a kaiju with ease. A few days earlier, she had requested a custom weapon, something normally reserved for the captain, but the team made an exception and crafted a scythe tailored specifically for her combat style. Mina had personally handed it to her and formally announced her as a member of the main force, ranking her third in the platoon right after the vice captain. When Kikoru first laid eyes on the weapon, she scoffed at its appearance, calling it ugly and claiming it didn't suit her at all. Yet as she swung it with precision, she unleashed two devastating new attacks that tore through the enemy ranks with style. As the fight heats up, even Reno manages to hold his own, impressing Kikoru with his growth and grit as the two form an unexpectedly perfect duo on the battlefield. Meanwhile, on the other side, the vice captain begins to falter under the relentless pressure of the Daikaiju. He lures the Daikaiju through the third gate, the Daikaiju now fully acknowledging him as a worthy rival, growls that he will devour Soshiro to grow even stronger. With a devastating blow, the monster sends the vice captain flying, but Soshiro manages to slice off one of its limbs. Back on the other side, Kaka rushes in to save an officer from a sudden kaiju attack, and when it seems like he will not make it in time, he taps into a bit of his kaiju legs to reach her just in time, pulling the girl named Menes to safety. Menes asks if he has finally gotten the hang of his suit, and Kaka responds with a confident thumbs up. But before they can relax, another kaiju locks onto them. Fortunately, Kikoru leaps in and takes it down, shielding both of them. Just then, they receive word that the senior officers who are off duty have returned to the base to assist, instantly lifting everyone's spirits. Meanwhile, back at the Daikaiju front, the vice captain tells the Dragonoid Kaiju that it picked the wrong team to mess with. He locks the monster in a brutal clash, slicing through the gaps in its exoskeleton. Using this as a distraction, he tricks the Daikaiju into thinking he is targeting its weak spot, only to land his ultimate move with full force. For a moment, it looks like the battle is over, but the Daikaiju quickly regenerates, grinning as it claims to be enjoying the fight with its chosen rival. The vice captain pushes on, breaking through the beast's defenses and finally exposing its core, though he's surprised to see how small it is. Without wasting time, Soshiro unleashes his eightfold slasher in a final attempt to obliterate the creature. The team starts cheering, believing the threat has been neutralized, but Soshiro warns them that it is not over yet. Even Kafe, still in his human form, begins to sense the monster's presence somehow. As the vice captain watches, the kaiju swells and morphs into a massive new form, like one of those villains powering up in the Power Rangers show. Its fortitude shoots up to 9 as it lets out a deafening roar. The lab lady realizes it's way too much for Soshiro to handle alone, but the legend still goes back in and unleashes his third technique, slicing small cuts all over its massive body while smoothly dodging the demon's slow, heavy attacks, which impresses Okonoji. Still, he knows those slashes aren't enough, and just as he figures he needs to strike the core on its back, he coughs up blood as the suit warns him to cancel Maximum Unleash since it's now dangerously overheating. Even so, he keeps going and dodges the kamikaze bird bombs that make up a thick smokescreen, giving him the chance to sneak up and go for a hit on its back, or so he thinks, until dozens of eyes suddenly pop open and the beast lands a brutal counter that blasts him through walls like a cannonball, so hard his suit shuts down on impact and instantly recommends emergency medical treatment. Everyone in the control room thinks he's done for as Soshiro relives his childhood memory back when his father told him his genius with the blade came a century too late and that you should just give up. He then acts like everything is fine and dandy to everyone's shock before struggling to stand up like an obese American. Kaiju number 10 tears through buildings and gets closer, so Soshiro decides he'll fight till he drops. He drives his twin blades into it like Zoro on steroids, but the monster heals right up and laughs at his tiny little sword, which he already knows is weak since practically everyone in the family and the defense force told him his sword skills are hopeless compared to guns. But Commander Mina was different and said she actually liked how good he is with his little thing, because it's exactly what she'd need if they ever face a foe too small and agile for her to blast away. That one moment she trusted him to be her protector gives him new drive, so he channels his inner Tanjiro and unleashes the second, third, fourth, and sixth Hashina family hidden technique, though he then gets slapped and death gripped by the kaiju so hard it nearly squeezes the soul out of him. Seeing the captain on his way to heaven, Kaka completely loses it and apologizes to Reno as he begins to transform, but he's stopped midway by the commander's calm and reassuring voice, telling everyone to relax. So Soshiro gives Kaiju number 10 a smug grin right before it gets nuked in the back. Whipping out her big black blaster, Mina fires another blast into its ugly screaming face but ends up missing, so she falls back as it launches the kamikaze birds straight at her camping spot. Okonoji reports the core is in its upper back, but the captain knows it's no joke trying to get the big rascal to expose his weak spot, so he runs out on fumes and makes deep cuts in its legs as a decoy despite Okonoji's warning, but the wounds disappear in an instant. Just as he starts to think it's meaningless, Kikoru pops up from behind him and barely makes a dent in the monster's solid shell, So the captain tells her to slice directly into the wounds he creates, dealing heavy critical damage. That single attack drives her suit into full overheat, but it's more than enough because Commander Mina blasts straight into its back and exposes the core. Seeing that, Soshiro orders all the soldiers to stop it from regenerating as he epically carves up its shell from head to toe, and Mina readies her next shot. He musters up as much willpower as humanly possible to hold out just long enough, slicing and dicing through it like an absolute boss until he ends up right in front of its gaping jaws, ready to return the favor. Unfortunately for the big red discount final boss, Mina unleashes 96 and blasts the so-called Great Kaiju straight to smithereens. Once it's all over, Kafka bursts into tears like he just binged your name on repeat as he sees Kikoru and his idols salute each other on a job well done, exactly like he always dreamed as a little boy. Reno tells him to quit crying like a preschooler and hypes him up by saying this is just the start for them. Meanwhile, Commander Mina stops Soshiro from going off again and orders him to finally get some rest. However, her tiger suddenly freaks out and they all turn to the horrifying abomination in the sky made from exploding kamikaze birds, which has an estimated explosive force equal to a literal nuclear bomb. As the recruits try firing at one, the shockwave from the blast makes it clear that it won't cut it, and number 10 lets out one last evil laugh, saying it looks like their fight ends in a draw. Mina realizes this could be the end, but they suddenly hear Reno yelling at Kafka to stop, and everyone watches in shock as the dude dashes like a black man at the Olympics and transforms right in front of them. Seeing him fully unleashed, Soshiro regrets how much he vied with the guy and can't believe he liked him so much that he refused to connect the dots and accept that Kafka was number 8 all along. Meanwhile, Kafka recalls his promise to Soshiro and Kikoru. Knowing this could be the final moment they talk as actual friends, and then he remembers what he owes Reno and the love of his life. While everyone stands frozen in shock, he charges every last ounce of power into his legs, launches like a rocket, and punches the nuclear tumor with everything he's got, sending it flying into the stratosphere. Right after, Mina shouts for everyone to brace for impact, and Kafka shields her and the captain with all of his strength as if his life depended on it. As the dust settles, the two of them get up while Kafka loses all the power in his busted old arms and legs trying to get away, and Mina stays cold as ice, image up like a savage to keep up her commander image, and tells him he's officially under arrest. At the director's office, the team reviews the footage capturing Kafka's transformation. The deputy director questions how a Daikaiju-level monster managed to hide right under their noses for so long. One of the officials suggests alerting the media, but others quickly shut the idea down, arguing that it would be better to eliminate the creature quietly and turn it into a weapon. The director silences the room, calling the discussion pointless for now, and firmly orders them to retrieve the kaiju from the 3rd Division before making any further decisions. Meanwhile, back at the 3rd Division, our guy is restrained and seems to be napping despite everything going on around him. He opens his eyes, growing gloomy as he remembers Kikoru telling him the defense force might consider turning him into a weapon. Just then, Mina, the vice captain, and a few others arrive to escort him outside where a transport truck is waiting. Outside, everyone stands in a line. Kafka feels sad that he couldn't look his friend in the eye, wondering if Reno would be really mad. But as he steps into the truck, Reno rushes up to him, calling him senior, and telling him he has faith he will come back. Inside the truck, Kafka has some quiet time with Mina, who admits she was shocked to see him transform into a kaiju. She promises to gather footage and testimony to prove he still has his humanity and that no one here sees him as an enemy. Before she leaves, Kafka cries quietly, asking if he can still stand by her side, making her smile. As he leaves, the vice captain orders the platoon to salute. When the stern deputy director questions if he's saluting a kaiju, the vice captain simply replies that he is saluting his captain. As our guy is taken to the area maritime base, he is locked behind the 31 gates. Several days pass at the 3rd Division, and the whole platoon worries about the fate of their comrade, reminding each other how he saved them so many times. Even the captain shares their concern and works hard to compile all the data she can to find a way to save him. While everyone is doing their best, the yellow-haired girl arrives at her father's office. She asks him to spare her friend and not eliminate him, arguing that he has saved her life. The director dismisses her, calling her a fool. Then he shows her an X-ray of Kafka, pointing out that what Kafka tried to pass off as a heart is actually the core of a kaiju. As she leaves, she tells her father that she still believes in him. Meanwhile, the scientists continue running tests on Kafka. Later in the captain's office, Mina gathers some of the new recruits and tells them they are going to be split up and reassigned to different bases. The guys protest, but it seems there is nothing they can do. Later, Izuma overhears Kagegare on a phone call asking someone to save Kafka. After the call, Kagegare sits beside Izumo and explains that he was talking to an old commander friend. He admits he knows personal favors probably won't work, but he is still trying his best. Just a while later, the director himself arrives at the place where Kafka is locked up. Kafka shouts at him that he is not a kaiju. The director orders the team to release the bindings, and when they protest, he points out that a kaiju of Kafka's power could easily break free if he wanted and is only sitting still because he chooses to cooperate. As Kafka is released, the director immediately unleashes his fire and goes all out attacking him, arguing that no human could withstand an assault like this. Then the director prepares his gear and nerve links with weapons created from Kaiju number 2. He demands that Kafka morph if he does not want to die in his human form. Kafka tries to keep the transformation minimal to prove his humanity, but the director pulls out his Kaiju arm, forcing him to transform even more. Kafka does his best to dodge the attacks but still gets hit repeatedly. Suddenly, Kafka's body starts reacting strangely as if it is attacking a Kaiju. The director keeps pressing the attack and finally forces Kafka to take his full Kaiju form. Unexpectedly, Kafka loses control over his body and leaps toward the director to attack him while Kikoru shouts at him to regain his senses. On the other hand, Ryoma starts going hard in the gym like David Goggins and pushes himself to get stronger as fast as possible so he can protect his senpai. Seeing his aura points go up by the second, Iharu decides to jump in too, and that's when their seniors show up and drop the news that Kafka's fate is being decided today, and they even summoned Commander Mina to give an official comment. Meanwhile, Kafka roars again, but this time director Shinomiya notices his attacks are way faster and more animalistic. Inside, Kafka keeps fighting for control as his body goes absolutely ham on the director so brutally that he'd be a cursed pancake without number 2's special shield. Shinomiya claps back with his gauntlet's explosive punch aimed square at Kafka's heart, but the core is nowhere to be seen. Instead, it floats behind him and regenerates into a full body that counters with a punch powerful enough to destroy the second barrier. The observers start to panic, but the old men stay pretty chill, since they expect any clash between two numbered kaiju to bring at least this much chaos. As Kikoru watches in awe, the wrinkly bald man finds it strange that her dad refuses to end the fight and suspects he might be testing how far Kafka can go, which makes Kikoru wonder if her dad is actually giving Kafka the chance she asked for. The two old men lock arms and director Shinomiya makes Kafka charge into the wall like a dumb bull, but he quickly regrets it when Kafka comes flying back and bashes his ribs and making even the bald men panic for the first time. Number 8 keeps growing stronger beyond what even the director can fully handle, while Kafka keeps struggling inside. The director puts his gauntlets into overdrive and throws out his strongest punches, but Kafka now powers through his shield like it's paper. Then he follows up with number 2's ultimate railgun attack that sends shock through Kafka's full body, but he recovers instantly and fires back a laser death ray of his own, making Kafka want to rip his hair out as it injures Kikoru's dad. Kafka then takes him in a death grip and smashes him into the wall. Just as it seems like he might end him, he turns and sees Kikoru's sad little face and refuses to let her watch him finish off her dad. But his body goes full savage and starts beating the director into the ground like a toy plushie against his will. Thinking about all the times Kafka was wholesome and real, she doesn't lose hope and yells at the old fart to get his act together. Hearing that, Kafka channels the power of anime and friendship to finally break his restraints a second before getting chomped in half by the parasite. As his body raises a final death blow on Kikoru's father, he feels himself drowning in the void when he suddenly sees a bright ray of hope and feels Mina grab his hand, promising she'll always be waiting. Her voice finally snaps him back into reality and his finisher lands, splattering blood everywhere to Kikoru and her father's complete shock, because he actually punches a hole into his own chest and proudly declares he's not a kaiju, he's Hibino Kafka. After he collapses, the 1st Division's captain Narumi puts his blade to Kafka's neck, but the director himself stops him and orders the medics to come and carry off number 8 before he bleeds out. After the director's physical examination wraps up, Commander Mina finally gets called in for her official comment as Kafka's superior, and they make sure to bring up her past with him while making it painfully clear that they've already made their decision. She's only there to give a report on what happened, meaning her opinion as a woman apparently holds no worth whatsoever. She claps back without hesitation that she doesn't care if they see Kafka as human or not and calmly reports his real contributions as an officer. First, she points out how he was more fragile than their ego during their first major mission, but his discovery of reproductive organs turned out to be a massive game changer. Still, the biggest proof of his deep desire to protect humanity was how he threw away both his future and life in the fight against number 10, saving the entire 3rd Division from being completely wiped out. The geezers start yapping that he cheated using filthy kaiju powers and argue a newbie like him couldn't possibly know that much unless he was a dirty kaiju himself. But to their surprise, Mina admits as his unleashed potential is a zero-rounder than their bald, hairless heads and that he only passed under special conditions after failing the exam 12 times. But his dedication alone proves his worth, and he kept going till the bitter end, even after pulling an errand and turning into the very monster he swore to erase. Having heard her opinion, Director Shinomiya tells her to leave, and after she exits, all the geezers turn to him and ask for the green flag to approve Kikoru's execution. As he quietly utters his decision with a regretful look in his eyes, Kaka remembers the time when he was helpless and swore to Mina that he'd take revenge on the kaiju. And now it's too late when he has the power. Later, he opens his eyes in the hospital and nearly dies of a heart attack after seeing Kikoru's father beside him, and then thanks the heavens he doesn't have to face her at his funeral. Noticing his confusion, the director explains he'd be dead for sure if he didn't have a core where his heart used to be, and adds that the council has officially declared him a kaiju. He objected to using Kafka as weapon materials and got a ton of backlash when he convinced the geezers that keeping him controlled is far more useful now that the Defense Corps is facing its strongest threat ever. In the end, Kafka proudly declares he's still an officer and promises to prove he belongs in the Defense Corps. Seeing the message that he won't be executed, Mina actually smiles for the first time in forever. The news also spreads fast throughout the 3rd Division, and all of them celebrate gladly that their favorite old man is still kicking and alive. Meanwhile, back at Kaka's old workplace, his former buddies get their rears absolutely handed to them in chess by a mysterious guy named Number 9 who's been climbing the leaderboards recently. It's revealed that he's the humanoid kaiju who thinks he has humanity's intelligence figured out. He then casually mentions that he now has the full layout of the Defense Corps, and they're finally ready to execute their plan. At that moment, a shady figure steps forward and declares that it's time for the kaiju to take back the power of their fallen brethren. As the story continues, Kaka Hibino finds himself trapped in the middle of a massive anti-kaiju defense force. His beloved childhood friend Mina Ashiro, now the captain of the 3rd Division, locks her aim on him and orders fire. Bullets rain from every direction as he gets pushed back. Kaka has already turned into a rampaging giant kaiju with no conscience or awareness of what he is doing. His head lifts high and a devastating blast erupts, wiping out the entire city and tearing apart everything in sight. Then all of a sudden, Kafka wakes up and realizes that it was nothing more than a dream, and his body is still bound and restrained. At the same time, inside the Tachikowa base of the 3rd Division, Captain Mina Ashiro makes her rounds to check on how the repair process is going. Vice Captain Hoshina Soshiro appears and updates her, explaining that a decision was already reached about 5 days ago, yet the Defense Force headquarters remains uncertain about what to ultimately do with Kafka. For now, he remains confined under heavy restraint. He remarks how clearing up the aftermath of the kaiju attack on their base will take a long time while recalling Kafka's role in their last fight. Captain Mina then asks if the rookies will be meeting with their new units today, and Hoshina reassures her that they will manage without trouble. Meanwhile, Rino and Eharu make their way to the 4th Division's Matsumoto base, where while driving, Eharu notices how gloomy Rino looks. Wanting to break the mood, he pulls over and drags him into taking random photos along the way. Rino asks if they really have time to mess around, but Eharu brushes it off, saying they've got plenty of time before reaching the base. Rino eventually joins in, snapping a few shots of Eharu, and soon the two end up sitting together in a nearby park. Eharu keeps trying to lighten Rino's mood and then admits he never thought he'd get to see Matsumoto Castle while on a mission. As he scrolls through his phone, he notices Kafka still hasn't read any of their messages, which makes him wonder what will become of him. He even questions whether Kafka could ever go back to living as a regular Defense Force officer. This finally makes Rino laugh, and when Eharu asks why he's laughing, Rino tells him that he remembered Kafka's words right after turning into a kaiju, about whether he could become a Defense Force officer with his kaiju face. The memory makes both of them laugh, with Eharu joking that if it had been him, he would have been in shock for an entire year. Both of them are now certain that Kafka will return. As the Matsumoto base finally comes into view, Rino vows to get stronger here and be the one to protect his senpai this time. At the same time, Kikoru checks her cell phone and finds out that Eharu and Rino have arrived at the base of the 4th Division. She sends them an emoji before putting her phone down, and then thinks that she will become stronger, so that when Kafka needs her to stop him, she will be able to do so. Just then, the vice captain of the 1st Division, Iji Hasegawa, shows up and apologizes for making her wait before asking her to tag along as he takes her to meet the captain of the division. On their way, he points out that he is certain the captain of the 3rd Division already explained everything to her, and that she will now be serving under the 1st Division until the Tachikowa base is completed, which makes Kikoru think about how the 1st Division is the most powerful in all of Japan. So powerful that it is even nicknamed the Kaiju Superpower. She recalls her time in America and how even there people were well aware of them, which strengthens her vow to become stronger since this place is the perfect training ground she could ever hope for. As the vice captain knocks on the door, Kikoru gets serious knowing that she's about to meet the most important person in the entire defense force. But when the vice captain opens the door to introduce her to the captain of the 1st Division, Jet Narumi, What she actually finds is a die-hard gamer who has been up for days trying to hit platinum rank in some random game. Eiji tells her to wait as he steps inside and kicks the captain on the back, sending him flying and ruining his gaming console, while Gen Narumi whines and complains, but the big guy scolds him, reminding him that he had already told him to clean his room before 2 in the afternoon, knowing full well Kaikoru would be arriving. The captain agrees with that, but argues that he is the one here who makes the final calls, and right after he says that, he gets kicked again. The big guy scolds him for being lazy and reminds him that while the room might be his office, it still belongs to the defense force, as Kaikoru stands there, confused by just what is happening. When Narumi asks his vice captain why he does not just clean the room for him, Eiji instantly calls the cleaning service and starts tossing away all the captain's stuff, and the captain starts to act like some spoiled child who doesn't want to let go of his things. Eiji then introduces the captain to Kaikoru, but by now she has lost every bit of respect for him. Still, when he calls her, she realizes that the man is her senior, no matter what, and she properly introduces herself. For once, the gamer captain puts aside his usual attitude and turns serious as he tells her there is only one thing he wants from her, but before he can finish, the alarm goes off, and he says she will learn that one thing by watching them fight. The First Division prepares while Captain Narumi takes off in his helicopter. A warning is sent across the kaiju attack zone, and evacuation routes flash over every billboard to guide the public. The kaiju shows up near the Shudo Expressway Bay Bridge, where tanks are deployed against it. The defense force keeps firing missiles and forces the beast to change its path, but it tricks them by diving into the sea as if it were defeated. Then it suddenly comes back out, destroys the bridge, and keeps moving forward. Narumi quickly revises the plan, giving new orders to his squadron members Shinano, Miyak, Tachibana, and the vice captain. They follow with precision, which leaves Kaikoru impressed at how perfectly the First Division controls the kaiju's movements. Each member of the team is pushing out at least 40% combat power, making them stronger than any average platoon leader. Once Narumi receives word that the kaiju has been lured towards neutralization point B, he gets ready to depart, but before diving out, he repeats to Kaikoru that there's only one thing he wants from her. Dropping midair, he charges in and smashes the kaiju with a devastating blow that makes its entire body swell up before bursting apart, splattering remains across the area. Only then does he explain that the one thing he needs from Kaikoru is her unstoppable strength, as he has no use for polite incompetence. Later, when Captain Narumi checks the news for his heroic deeds, he finds that Captain Mina Ashiro is the one trending, which makes him worry that people might think she was the one who defeated the kaiju. Kaikoru sits across from him, wondering how the greatest captain and the strongest person in Japan could be searching his own name online. She points out that his phone has been ringing and that it might be something important, but Gen Narumi brushes it off, saying it must be her father, the director, or his vice captain trying to drag him into another meeting he has no interest in. Just as he argues that he has no intention of wasting his afternoon in such a miserable place, both he and his bench are suddenly kicked over by his vice captain. Eiji tells him he is doing this because it is his job, then starts dragging the captain away as Narumi struggles to break free, and asks if it is really that important. When Eiji mentions that it concerns Kaiju number 8, both Gen Narumi and Kaikoru turn serious and follow along. Back in his restrained cell, Kaka spends his time doing push-ups as 5 days have already crawled by without him being able to accomplish a single thing. He remembers director Shinomiya's words about proving his worth and keeps wondering what exactly he is supposed to do. That's when armed members of the defense force arrive and order him to follow them. He is escorted to the director's office, where Kaikoru is already standing in front of the door waiting to enter as well. As they head inside, Kaka straightens himself and stands stiff in an upright position to show respect, only to realize that the person standing next to him is none other than Captain Narumi. Before he can even sort through the flood of questions in his mind, the director informs him that he will be transferred to the First Division, explaining that he wants the strongest anti-kaiju force and the strongest kaiju of all time working together to handle any disaster. He further tells Kaka to prove his worth in the next mission and win everyone's acceptance, otherwise he has no place there. Even though Kafka hates being valued only as Kaiju number 8, his first priority is survival, and as he accepts the order, Gen Narumi immediately opposes the idea of letting him join the First Division, insisting that the only thing the strongest division needs is himself. As Gen Narumi is about to leave, the general stops him and reminds him that number 9 was capable of disguising itself as a human to vanish, and on top of that, number 10 purposely attacked a defense force installation, which clearly proves that these kaiju are no longer the same enemies they have been fighting before. Shinomiya adds that although they have overcome many kaiju-related disasters by growing stronger and more efficient, the kaiju have now begun to evolve in ways they cannot comprehend, and the moment they grow arrogant enough to believe they can handle anything, will be the moment the kaiju change the rules entirely and bring disaster upon them. Narumi responds by telling the director to trust his judgment and allow him to use number 8 and convert it into his weapon. This response shocks Kafka and finally pushes him to speak for himself. Kafka declares that he cannot die yet because he has comrades he must protect and a goal in life he still has to fulfill, recalling the promise he once made to Captain Mina Ashiro of the 3rd Division when he told her they would see who would become the cooler Defense Force officer and vowed to remain by her side. When he joins the 1st Division, Narumi walks away, making it clear that he has no interest in Kafka's feelings or resolve, only in results, and vows that if Kafka ever loses control, he will kill him on the spot and make use of him as nothing more than his suit. Later in the evening, Hashino reports to his Captain Mina that all their rookie officers, including Kafka, have arrived at their new divisions. The captain stands up, saying that they also have some training to do and takes him along. At the same time, Kakoru is packing her bag and leaving her house while glancing at the picture of her mother. Meanwhile, Director Shinomiya heads to a hidden section of his secret lab where he has started a top-secret project. Meanwhile, on the surface, the earth shakes violently, making the civilians think it is just another earthquake, so they hope it ends soon. Suddenly, skyscrapers crash down one after another, followed by entire residential blocks, forcing hordes of people to run for their lives. A whole section of the city disappears into a massive black pit. As the dust settles, a woman recording the whole thing sees a pair of white dots inside the void with her phone, but before she understands what they are, her screen fills with countless glowing eyes. By the time she realizes what they really are, a swarm of ant monsters pours out and tramples everything in sight. Back at the 1st Division, the commander finishes morning training and Kafka is so exhausted he pants like a dog. Kakoru glances at him for a moment but decides to walk away without a word. Later that day, 2 officers standing at the window watch Kafka run laps even after everyone else has left, because Director Shinomiya ordered him to prove he is worth keeping alive instead of turning into a kaiju weapon. On the other hand, Kakoru heads to Captain Narumi's room to request his help in training, only to find him on all fours, begging her to donate some money. He explains that his bank account has been completely drained, but Kakoru explodes in anger when she notices the mountain of Amazon boxes stacked behind him. She calls him insane for asking subordinates for cash while acting as captain. Just as she steps closer, ready to knock some sense into him, the vice captain suddenly appears and informs Narumi that he needs to gear up for battle. Once the captain is suited and armed, he fumes that his crucial negotiations were interrupted by kaiju, so the only order he gives his soldiers is to head out and beat them down. Back in the city, the kaiju swarm tears through everything in its path, and while the civilians rush to shelters, a boy hiding behind a broken car comforts his crying friend, telling her that Captain Narumi, who is strong enough to slay massive kaiju with a single punch, will save them for sure. However, one of the kaiju notices him and hurls the car away, leaving the boy to stand fearlessly in front of the girl, shielding her with trembling arms and praying through tears that Narumi arrives any second now. Just before the ant opens its huge jaws and swallows him whole, a flash of lightning slams down from above and kills it instantly. Narumi appears and tells the boy he deserves punishment for forgetting to say captain, so his penalty is to borrow his mom's phone and tweet Captain Narumi is cool 10 times. A pair of soldiers then escorts the kids to safety while Narumi orders his team to update the battle status. Squadron leader Kinashi reports his sector will be cleared soon, and Miyak announces his squad is already finished, so Narumi instructs them to focus on assessing the current threat and prioritizing the evacuation of civilians instead. He leaves it to his team to decide if they want to kill the kaiju outright or lead them into the neutralization zone, and then assigns Kakoru and Kaka the crucial job of taking down any kaiju that makes it there, telling them to show him their very best. At the operations room, the scientists confirm the civilians are finally secure and continue to monitor kaiju number 8's unstable transformation signals. The atmosphere gets tense under the crushing weight of countless urgent tasks, but when Director Shinomiya calmly reminds them that their one and only mission is to neutralize kaiju, the entire team steadies their nerves and refocuses on that single objective. Back in the city, helicopters rain heavy firepower from the skies while ground troops unload volleys of bullets into the advancing kaiju, driving them into the neutralization zone where Kakoru and Kaka stand ready. On receiving the order, Kakoru unlocks her massive axe, which glows fiercely as she activates it, and right as Shinano gets the command to back her up, she spots a monstrous ant charging past the line. Kakoru chases after it at lightning speed and splits it apart in mere seconds before striking a dramatic pose, stunning everyone with how easily she wiped out a kaiju. Still, she tells herself it is not nearly enough, since Captain Hoshina was far faster and Commander Mina's strikes landed with more devastating force. She smashes another bug with her axe, which shocks the squad and even manages to amaze the usually hard-to-impress Shinano. Kakoru then shoots down a third kaiju and sharply snaps at the squad leader to stop slacking, which irritates the woman with the massive Gatling gun, though she admits to herself she might get along with the Fisi rookie after all. From then on, Kikoru matches the squad leader kill for kill, making the others question if she is really just a beginner. Hearing this, Scarface pulls off a flashy move and laughs, convinced he is still better than the newbie, until he hears a report that she has already eliminated more kaiju. Vice Captain Hasegawa teases Narumi that the rookie girl might actually be stronger than he was during his own first year. Still, Narumi senses something is wrong because ant-type kaiju never crawl up to the surface and are normally found only underground during construction, making this the very first time in recorded history they have ever appeared above ground. Remembering the last great kaiju incident, both he and the Vice Captain recall the strange behavior that occurred at Tachikowa Base, which suggests there is a hidden ringleader commanding them all from behind the scenes. At that very same moment, a helicopter and armed soldiers from both sides prepare to unload their guns on the kaiju swarming into the neutralization zone. Kafka braces himself, but his legs tremble nervously as the directors command him to prove what Kaiju number 8 can truly do against his own kind. The soldiers open fire while Kafka builds his courage, determined to make the most of the chance that Kikoru's father had given him. He partially transforms his limbs and dashes forward, slamming down hard on the ants from above, but his punch barely leaves a dent, and the creature swats him away like a toy. The older soldiers stare in confusion at why he does not transform completely, while Kafka grits his teeth in frustration that partial transformation is too weak. He remembers the time he lost control and ruthlessly beat up Kikoru's father when he went full kaiju, but he knows he cannot afford to hesitate anymore if he wants to see the day he finally stands at Mina's side. With that resolve, he transforms head to toe, and everyone in the operations room leans forward anxiously as lead scientist Akira reports his energy signals are spiking. But right before the full transformation completes, the shell suddenly shatters and an ant kicks him so brutally hard he rockets through the air like a bullet, crashing straight into the nearest building. A drone sent to check on Kafka finds him horribly injured, and Akira grimly reports that he failed to transform. Kafka coughs up blood in confusion, unable to understand what is wrong with his body, and another scientist suddenly reports that a new, powerful kaiju signal has appeared inside the neutralization zone. Narumi knew this was going to happen, and when the Vice Captain demands to know the location, the scientists report it is directly beneath Kafka's position. At that instant, a Hanju bursts out of the ground right beside him, and Narumi instantly realizes the enemy's true goal. As the massive bug quietly stands over Kafka, an ugly mass of flesh sprouts from its head and reshapes itself into the sinister form of Kaiju number 9. The moment the soldiers and the operations team hear Kafka whisper its name, the entire battlefield falls silent in shock. Meanwhile, number 9 tilts its head curiously, remarking how strange it is that number 8 is not present, since it only emerged after detecting him nearby. That's when it suspects Kafka might be number 8 himself, while Kafka reels in disbelief that number 9 can sense other kaiju like him. The creature fires a shot into his shoulder, trying to force number 8's power to reveal itself, and Kafka starts to transform once more. Narumi immediately asks the operations room to confirm if Kafka is beginning to change, but Kafka fails to complete the process again. The Vice Captain demands to know what their next move should be before they risk losing number 8 altogether, and Narumi coldly decides he will handle it personally. However, just as he rushes toward number 9, another Hanju claws its way up from the ground, and the operations team goes pale when their instruments confirm 2 number 9 signatures appearing at the same time. Staring at the second figure, Narumi theorizes that number 9 may have split into 2, or there might have been 2 of them from the very beginning. But before he can act, something even worse happens nearby. All the kaiju that were previously slain suddenly regenerate out of nowhere, just like the 3rd Division reported during the last incident. Hearing sudden reports of respawned kaiju flooding in from across the city, Akira is shaken because the scale is already far larger than the last time number 9 attacked. Narumi analyzes that this monster is a menace capable of flipping the battle's tide simply by existing. The soldiers in the neutralization zone desperately try to cover Kafka, but number 9 casually puts them all to sleep with a wave of its power. Now that the stage is fully set, number 9 grins and tells Kafka to prepare to be eliminated and have his power stolen. It fires again, grazing Kafka's leg before closing in and brutally kicking him into a streetlight at a speed too fast for human eyes to track. Watching the nightmare come closer, Kafka realizes he has no choice but to fight back and once again tries to transform, only to fail completely. As Kafka gasps in confusion, unable to understand why his body refuses to change even when he desperately wants it to, Director Itami firmly orders Kikoru's father to stay back. He knows full well the veteran is already preparing to charge in if number 8 goes berserk again, but warns that the risk is far too high. The man has already shortened his own lifespan dangerously by using his numbered weapon, and drawing upon its full power repeatedly could very well kill him outright. Right then, several ugly arms sprout from number 9's body, ready to turn Kafka into Swiss cheese, but before the shots can fire, the monster is chopped cleanly in half as Kikoru bursts onto the scene. While the kaiju regenerates, he curiously asks for her name, but she scoffs and declares that he will not need it since he will be dead by the time she is finished. Elsewhere nearby, the second number 9 squares off against Narumi, ready to finish him and then help the other clone in killing number 8. But Narumi calmly points out that if it's struggling against number 8, then a captain like him is on a completely different level. Number 9 blasts at him with zero respect for his speech, and that gets on Narumi's nerves. Watching him evade so effortlessly, the kaiju tilts its head and asks if he is truly stronger than number 8. But instead of answering, Narumi replies with his sword to drive the message home. While Narumi battles against the clone, director Shinomiya reflects that the younger generation now faces a trial they must conquer on their own. Meanwhile, Kafka barely manages to stand when number 9 approaches and gets ready to finish him off and take his powers. A strong urge rises within Kafka to defeat this monster here and now, and he tries to transform again, but the attempt fails and leaves him exposed. Number 9 wastes no time and bids him goodbye, but just then, Kakoru slices its upper body in half. She asks if he can transform, and Kafka admits that no matter how hard he tries, it just doesn't seem to work. Kakoru suspects that number 9 might be using some kind of jammer to block his transformation, and before they can think further, the creature lunges at them, and they barely dodge. Kakoru tells Kafka that she will strike the kaiju hard to leave it immobile for a short moment. If it is truly interfering with his transformation, the jammer should shut down until it recovers. She hates to admit it, but she needs his powers to bring this monster down. The two charge in and split to opposite sides, and number 9 argues that it is unfair before splitting its own upper body into two and attacking them both at the same time. Kafka is struck head-on while Kakoru deflects blow after blow with her weapon, with her mind racing with worry over what number 9 is planning next. She closes in despite the assault, and while the kaiju boasts of its victory, she leaps onto it and slices its body into pieces. She refuses to watch helplessly anymore, and this time she wants to be the one who protects others instead of being protected every time. Kakoru remembers the day when her mother returned from the kaiju neutralization mission. The news would show her as a battlefield Valkyrie, wielding a weapon crafted from number 4. At school, the teacher played the news highlights for the class, and everyone instantly recognized her mother, showering Kakoru with praise and telling her that her mommy is the strongest. Kakoru blushed with excitement, as she was proud beyond words. That night, when her mother came home exhausted, Kakoru ran to her and leaped into her arms. Her father, Shinomiya, reminded her that her mother was tired, but instead of resting, she chose to play with her daughter, filling the place with laughter. Kakoru eagerly shared how her friends at school had watched her on TV and called her super cool. As she spotted the injuries on her mother's arm, Kakoru worriedly asked if she was hurt. Her mother smiled and explained that the kaiju she fought that day had been tough, but assured her that she was perfectly fine. Kakoru looked at her mother with firm resolve and said she would join the defense force to fight alongside her. Both her parents exchanged glances before her mother turned back to her and promised that whenever Kakoru needed her, she would come rushing to help. Memories of her mother passed through her mind, reminding her of how warm and beautiful her childhood had been until the day it all ended when kaiju number 6 struck. That day, the defense force suffered a heavy loss as Hikari Shinomiya, her mother, and the captain of the 2nd Division fell in battle. Her death broke countless hearts, and news reports declared that without her sacrifice, the destruction would have been far worse. Temporary memorials were raised across the world while Kakoru, overwhelmed with grief, could not hold back her tears and called herself a liar for promising to protect her mother. She then looked at her father, who sat in silence, drowning in his own despair, and decided that while she could not save her mother, she would become the strongest and follow in her footsteps. Back on the battlefield, Kakoru unleashes all her rage on the monster as she vows to save everyone just like her mother once did. But her footing gets trapped inside the kaiju's body while her father watches, and Kafka leaps in with a high jump kick only to be thrown aside and badly injure his leg as he cries out for Kakoru, who manages to free herself and instantly uses her 6th technique, Daruma Dropper, to slice through the enemy's body, leaving the kaiju momentarily immobile, which gives her the chance to shout at Kafka to transform. Forcing himself to stand, he pushes his broken body to activate the transformation and realizes that Kakoru has bought him precious time. And though it finally triggers, he suddenly finds himself inside his own mind where terror grips him as he sees himself losing control, turning into a monster that could kill Kakoru and even slaughter the entire defense force with their bloods, staining his hands until the vision drags him into despair and the transformation collapses once more, leaving him shaken as he understands that this failure has nothing to do with number 9. Kiji, Atami, and Juzo grow furious since they had opposed the reckless idea of letting a kaiju fight beside them. And with no patience left, Atami insists that their only option now is to move to Plan B, just as Captain Narumi connects with them and declares that he will personally handle the situation because he cannot allow rookies to face something this dangerous. Gen Narumi moves like a battle warrior as his unleashed combat power climbs to 98%, while the operation team declares the surrounding area off limits since it is too dangerous to approach Gen Narumi. The captain charges at the copy of number 9 with an attack that burns through the kaiju's injuries, and number 9 falls back, preparing a long-range strike. But Narumi shifts his weapon into shooting mode and overwhelms the kaiju with a relentless mix of blade and gunfire. The kaiju then closes in and argues that it has already learned how to deal with this before striking from behind. Yet Narumi dodges the attack only to find himself surrounded as the creature spreads its body like roots and bursts outward. Atami comments that the kaiju is adapting during the fight, and even the director admits this behavior is new, unlike the number 9 previously reported by the 3rd Division. He compares this kaiju to a virus that spreads quickly and reshapes itself, and Atami considers it a dangerous threat to the defense force since nothing like it has ever been seen in any other kaiju. While the control room fills with worry, Gen Narumi shouts at them, insisting that he is a bigger threat than the kaiju itself, and even number 9 cannot understand how Narumi has managed to escape without a single injury. He rises to his feet and drives his blade into the ground, saying that he has warmed up his suit and is ready. Number 9 notices a change in his eyes and remarks that they resemble kaiju eyes, but before he can think further, Narumi blasts straight through him. His eye, Narumi's second unique weapon, is known as Retina 0001, the oldest numbered weapon created in Japan from the retinas of kaiju number 1. This time, number 9 seems overwhelmed as he admits he believed he had figured out Narumi's attack pattern, but now he cannot dodge a single strike. It takes him a moment to realize that the captain is attacking exactly where he is about to move. Kaiju number 1, from which this weapon was crafted, had the ability to see the future by reading the brain signals of its opponents, knowing their actions before they themselves were aware. That was why its attacks could never be avoided, and now this same power rests with Gen Narumi. Gen Narumi leaps into the sky and locks onto the core of his enemy, and since number 9 cannot adapt in time, Narumi finishes it off with his Gunsword technique number 2 called the Slash Salvo. The operation team erupts in cheer as Narumi brings down a Hanju-level threat, and even Atami voices his praise. At the same time, the director keeps his attention on Kafka, hoping for his success. Kakoru struggles to keep up with the kaiju while Kafka gets shot down and rolled over, unable to transform because of the fear that his inner kaiju might consume him and end up hurting his friends. Hearing this, Kakoru shouts at him to stop underestimating her, the rest of their teammates from the 3rd Division, and most of all himself. She tries to knock some sense into Kafka as she continues to fight the kaiju. And in that moment, Kafka calls her an idiot and forces himself back to his feet. Trusting in everyone as well as himself, he overcomes his fear and finally transforms into his kaiju form. Kakoru tells him he is too slow, and soon after, the report goes out that kaiju number 8 has appeared in the western part of the battlefield. They shift into operation number 2 as Captain Narumi rushes in to support kaiju 8 against number 9. Number 9 remarks that he knew all along that Kafka was the kaiju, and then lets out a roar that forces the fallen Yojo back onto their feet. It spreads its wings, and Kakoru realizes that number 9 had been holding back its true strength the entire time. Kafka places his kaiju hand on Kakoru and tells her he believes in her, asking her to handle the ants as he refers to the Yoju. Kakoru dislikes being stuck with the small fry while he takes on the big one, but she agrees to the plan and warns that she will murder him if he does not win. Number 8 charges toward number 9 as the kaiju boasts that it has grown stronger and improved since their last battle. It grabs Kafka by the foot and prepares to strike, claiming to have the power to defeat him. But Kafka bursts through its body and smashes what appears to be its core, only to realize it is the core of a Yojo. Still, he is sure that number 9's core must be hidden somewhere nearby. Knowing he still has to bring out his own full power, Kafka leaps across the battlefield, climbs off a building, and soars into the sky, feeling stronger than before. As he lands on a bridge, number 9 grabs him again, but he breaks free and launches himself back into the air, descending like a shooting star while warning number 9 to get ready because he can no longer escape. Number 9 struggles to comprehend the change but senses that Kafka has become different from the last time they clashed, and number 8 crushes the entirety of kaiju number 9, and even Atami, who was opposed to letting number 8 in the defense force, finally feels impressed to see his true strength. As Kafka showers in the blood of his enemy, the operations room erupts in celebration and thinks the biggest threat is finally gone. The kaiju that had respawned alongside it started to die off one by one as well. Yet just before director Shinomiya can officially call it over, Kakoru yells that plenty of small fry are still roaming about and need to be dealt with. Hearing that, Atami smiles proudly at how quickly the girl has grown, while her father quietly observes that she now looks just like Narumi once did. He admits the new generation never ceases to surprise him as they make what was once thought impossible look like child's play. They just managed to neutralize the equivalent of 2 numbered kaiju, which suddenly popped up inside their home base without suffering any serious damage, proving themselves to be the most powerful unit director Shinomiya dreamed of. Once the mission is officially declared over, Kaka reverts to his human form and bumps fists with Kikoru on a job well done. Watching through the screen, Isao calls out Narumi, Kikoru, and Kaka by name to tell them they performed well. Hearing her father say that for the first time while Kaka flashes her a big thumbs up, Kikoru blushes redder than a hot tomato. Right after, the director orders all forces on the ground to make civilian evacuation their #1 priority. Still, Narumi can't shake the feeling that something is wrong as he recalls the moment number 9 spoke of eliminating number 8 and stealing a kaiju's power. Taking down a threat like number 8 makes sense, but he wonders if it was really the twisted kaiju's only goal, or if it is something deeper than that. At that moment, all attention shifts to the alarms blaring in the operations room as another great kaiju appears. Kaka turns toward number 9's head, which admits with frustration that he is disappointed he could not fully eliminate the threat, but the kaiju proudly states that he will now finish the second job he came for, stealing the kaiju's power. Kaka rushes toward the melting head in confusion, unsure about what it means. Meanwhile, a scientist moves quietly in the back of the operations room. When the head dissolves completely, the report comes through that both of the number 9s they defeated were not the true body. Suddenly, the scientist standing behind Kikoru's father transforms into a giant black kaiju, laughing as it celebrates that it has finally found kaiju number 2 and its wielder. Realizing what happened, Kafka and Narumi sprint back toward base at full speed, knowing they got distracted by clones from the very start, and that Kikoru's father was the real target all along. Kikoru also races after them, but her father orders everyone to evacuate immediately. Number 9 fires at Akira, who is still in the area, and the bullet has so much force that the entire building explodes, but Isao manages to shield the lead scientist just in time. After that, he requests the other 2 directors to take everyone and leave the area, and even though the eye patch director wants to join, Atami orders him to stay back since he would only be a burden. Then, Isao slams his weapon unit and equips his gauntlets, ready to send number 9 back to hell where it belongs. The other directors focus on evacuating all the scientists, while number 9 acts surprised at how fast his clones went down despite being just as strong as him in the last assault. Isao recalls the time he gave the order to create the Defense Force's strongest unit, powerful enough to slay any kaiju, and tells number 9 he was prepared for this fight a long time ago, though he never imagined the menace would mutate so quickly. Hearing that, the 2 launch their first punch, which generates the force of a bomb and tears apart everything in the area. Atami believes that if number 9's fortitude matches the 3rd Division's report, Isao should hold his ground without issue, but his assumption proves wrong when number 9 overwhelms the director, snapping his arm and slamming him deep into the rubble. Looking at the unconscious figure of the director, the kaiju is surprised by how powerful it has become, but just as it moves in to finish Isao off, the man counters at the last instant and swears he will drive the monster down at all costs as memories of his family run through his mind. Back in the city, Narumi dashes like lightning toward Izao's location, praying the director can hold out until he arrives. Meanwhile, Akira reports to the director that everyone else has escaped and urges the director to retreat as well, but Isao reminds him that number 9 can track him no matter where he runs and insists Akira should leave while he still can. Hearing that, the lead scientist remembers the time director Shinomiya was his hero and how proud he felt when he finally had the chance to work under him. That is when he swears to do his duty and remain by his hero's side until the very end. With that said, Isao unleashes his combat power and draws on the numbered weapon at full strength, even though it will strip away years of his lifespan to make him as strong as a great kaiju in human form. He meets number 9's punch head-on at his peak power. Even then, blood spurts out of every gap in his gauntlets and Akira realizes it is still not enough. While number 9 grins, enjoying a taste of power he plans to absorb soon. Spotting an opening, Isao surges forward with an uppercut technique called Rising Blast to number 9's chest, then follows with a jab to its twisted face that shatters its jaw and rips the head from its body. While he struggles with the recoil, the kaiju calmly compliments him and demands more before suddenly striking at the director. Akira quickly removes the safety limits on Izao's arms, barely allowing him to block against the punches number 9 unleashes at terrifying speed. Isao cannot withstand the assault with his bare arms, so he activates a shield, but the headless monster smashes through and launches him like a rocket, giving him a painful reminder of how weak he has become compared to his strength back when he fought alongside Kikoru's mother. Number 9 snaps him out of it with another gut-wrenching punch, and Akira warns him of the combat power drop from the damage to his vitals as he tries to repair it with the suit. But he soon realizes it is impossible to fix the damage in time and there is no way the director will survive until Captain Narumi gets there. Just then, Izzo forces himself up and declares he will take it down while explaining that stalling for time is no longer an option. He commands Akira to shift his suit into full offense mode, and the scientist realizes he has already merged his arm with number 2's muscles and warns him he will never be able to fight again. But Izzo accepts the consequences, knowing he achieved his dream of creating an incredible defense force full of talent from the next generation. He sees it as his last job to take down number 9 with everything he has, just like Kikoru's mother brought down number 6 on her final mission. However, number 9 nearly snaps his back in half in the middle of his power-up, and the shock drags Izzo into a memory of when Kikoru surprised her mother by saying she wanted to join the defense force when she grew up. Izzo said it made perfect sense considering the family she came from, and his wife teased him that he sounded proud. She admitted she was worried about Kikoru taking on such a dangerous job and promised to make Kikoru so strong she could survive anything that came at her, while it would be Daddy's job to spoil her like a princess. Back in the present, Izzo calls up blood, but he uses sheer willpower and the regret of never being the father Kikoru truly needed to lift 9's hand away. Akira watches the monstrous level of magnetic waves released from the director's body and is shocked when he realizes what it really means. Before number 9 launches another punch, Izzo turns to his final resort to finish off the menace once and for all and make a future for Kikoru, where a threat like him no longer exists. Right after his gauntlet makes contact with number 9, he sets off a direct energy blast, same as the one kaiju number 2 once used to wipe his city off the map, and Aisemi is stunned that Izzo would use it, knowing full well he might die in the blast. Akira regains hope in that instant when he sees the attack expose number 9's core, but number 9 commends his effort and reveals he is already prepared for something like it. The kaiju's body twists into a defensive form that resists the attack entirely, but Izzo is not finished yet. He had his other gauntlet charging the whole time, and number 9 refuses to believe it is even possible for a human to use that kind of power twice. The second blast lands clean, and a bright bolt of raw energy goes flying into a building at lightning speed, with an impact so massive that both Kaka and Narumi feel the shockwave all the way on the other side of the city. As the dust settles, Akira rushes closer to check on Izzo's condition, and he is horrified to see the director stand there half dead, while number 9 melts away, disappointed that even his strongest defense could not survive the attack. Seeing that, Akira tells director Shinomiya he won, but number 9 cuts him off, mocking that the human might have truly defeated him if he had the body of a kaiju. Even though the core is right in front of him, Izzo is too exhausted, and Akira helplessly watches as number 9 devours him whole. By the time Kaka and Narumi arrive, they are relieved to see the director still alive, until Kaka senses something off. He suddenly yells at Narumi to get back because the thing standing in front of them is not Kikoru's father anymore. He barely manages to shove the captain out of the way as the monster fires one of Kaiju number 2's devastating energy blasts, and Kaka wonders if number 9 was ever capable of such destruction before. In frustration, Narumi shouts at the director to come out already, but number 9 pulls out the earpiece and asks if he is talking about the human he killed and fused with. Kafka and Narumi refuse to accept it, but Kikoru screams the words the loudest as she blasts down from above. Seeing her reaction, the monster instantly realizes she is his daughter. It exposes a bit of his face to freeze her in shock, but Narumi steps in to stop the fiend from messing with his subordinate. But number 9 simply stands there and observes the captain, who once destroyed his clones with ease, now struggling to even scratch his new body with every technique he uses. In that moment, he remembers when director Shinomiya told him about his plan to retire after building the strongest unit in history, and entrusted the duty of protecting the nation to him. Narumi swears he will honor that promise and neutralize the threat, but number 9 suddenly recalls it is time to leave and spreads its wings because of the rejection response triggered after a fusion. That statement makes Narumi furious, and the captain slams the monster into the ground with all the power he can muster, but number 9 makes it painfully clear that his weak attacks only work on small fry with low defense. As it charges another energy blast strong enough to erase the captain from existence, Kaka smashes in with maximum power, yet number 9 blocks it effortlessly with a single arm. Kikoru shakes in fear as she stares at the thing that stole her father's life, now wearing his face while fending off the strongest fighters of the First Division. After Kaka lands another heavy punch to its chest, he realizes that even a numbered kaiju like himself and Captain Narumi together are still nothing compared to number 9 after its fusion. The big black kaiju strikes back with so much power that blood spills from every inch of Kaka's, forcing him to fall back. With that, the monster prepares to leave again. But just then it tilts its head in confusion as its right arm suddenly drops off, giving Narumi a bit of hope. At that moment, the captain shouts for Kaka to take advantage of the opening and pushes his numbered weapon deep into its body. Because the rejection response after fusion keeps the kaiju from hardening, the blow sinks in hard. However, when Kaka smashes the scales on its flank, number 9 realizes the real danger is not Narumi, but Kaiju number 8 standing before him. Charging up his strongest punch yet, Kaka swears he will never let him claim the director, and as memories of Kikoru and her father flash through his mind, he yells that it is far too cruel to her before unleashing a strike that blasts the monster back. Just then, as number 9 accepts he cannot recover from the rejection response while number 8 lives, Kaka drives another crushing blow into its core, tearing off its left arm as well. Next, Kafka and Captain Narumi rush in together to finish it off, but before they can, the Kaiju's body splits open. With a mocking farewell, it self-destructs, the explosion hurling Kikoru away and wiping out everything nearby with the unleashed energy of number 2. After the dust settles, number 9 loses more than half of his body because of the rejection response's effect and realizes he cannot push himself any further. But when he turns around, the strongest warriors of the First Division are still standing ready for payback. The duo tells him it is time to go back to hell, but just then, the Kaiju remembers there was something he could have done from the start. Splitting into two, the beast aims energy blasts toward Akira and Kikoru, forcing Kafka and Narumi to rush in and shield them. With that chance, it takes off while using Aizo's face, declaring that the age of the Kaiju will begin the next time they meet. The explosion throws up a huge cloud of fire and smoke, but Kafka survives and looks over to see that the captain is safe as well. Number 9's final words repeat in Kafka's mind, and it makes him furious that the Kaiju said all of that while using the face of Kikoru's father. Dropping to his knees, he screams in frustration, and his voice echoes throughout the ruined city as soldiers remain frozen, stunned that the monster escaped after taking the director's life. Later, word spreads across Japan that the head of the defense force, Izo Shinomiya, lost his life in the recent Kaiju incident. A grand funeral is held for the man who fought until his last breath for the nation. But Narumi and Kafka carry the heaviest grief. Director Atami commands his men to fire their guns in respect, while every soldier on duty raises their hand in tearful silence. Narumi remembers the last time a great Kaiju appeared. Izo jumped down from above and shattered half his body with a single punch, leaving his squad staring in awe. Many years after that, when Narumi rose to become the strongest man in the defense force, he entrusted him with the duty to protect the nation he loved. After that memory passes and the ceremony ends, Kaka notes that Kikoru never showed herself. Back inside the director's office, Narumi gently asks Kikoru if she is sure she will not pay her respects. But the girl says she couldn't do anything because she was too slow and weak. With her eyes swollen from hours of crying, Kikoru declares that she will grow stronger, catching the captain off guard. She strongly believes her father is still somewhere inside that creature, and she refuses to accept his death until she sees the defense force destroy the monster before her eyes. Hearing that, Narumi goes silent for a moment, and then tells her he will make her stronger than anyone in the First Division before the day they face number 9, promising to teach her everything her father once passed on to him if she can prove she has the potential. Kaka listens in from outside the door the whole time. Looking down the black scar on his hand, he quietly pulls on his glove and swears to do his best as well. Deep underground in the defense force, Akira leads Director Atami into a top security chamber and reveals a project Director Shinomiya had ordered them to build in secret. Shinomiya's instructions were clear that if anything happened to him, the work was to be shown to Atami. The director curses his late friend for leaving behind dirty work, but he commands the scientists to push the project forward, declaring it will be vital for taking revenge against number 9. At the training hall, Kikoru throws herself into battle with her staff against Shinano, but the woman blocks every strike with ease and checkmates her without breaking a sweat. That is when Kikoru realizes how dangerously good the squad leader truly is at keeping enemies out of her range, which allows her to use her massive machine gun on the battlefield. Watching from the side, Narumi sighs in boredom and asks the girl when she plans to beat all the squad leaders and reminds her that every one of them has the talent to become a captain someday. He gives her 1 month the time it will take him to finish his game to show she's above them, because she won't get anywhere if she can't even do that. While the captain acts smug, the vice captain boots him in the back and reminds him to take his own job seriously. Meanwhile, Kikoru asks Shinano to spar with her again, surprising the woman with her attitude. Though she doubts the brat could close the gap in just a month, seeing her boldness makes her excited as well, and she invites Kikoru to come at her anytime. Just then, Hasegawa asks Narumi if he officially intends to recruit Kaiju number 8 into the defense force. But before the captain can answer, Akira's voice comes through the comms with an update about Kafka. Back at his apartment, Kafka digs through old belongings and feels a heavy wave of nostalgia as he sniffs his old clothes. At that same time, the captain and vice captain receive the troubling report that Kafka's transformation is progressing, and after the last battle, part of his hand never turned back to human form. Though they are not sure, the scientists fear that he may lose his human side one day. Hasegawa asks if Kafka is even aware of this risk, and asks where he is now, to which the man explains that he requested temporary leave from the base to take care of important things back home. Back at his place, Kafka digs through his trash when a thought suddenly hits him, and he scares the guards by loudly requesting to visit one last place. Riding his scooter down the road, he is tailed by the men in black who watch him goof around the entire way until he arrives at a site where the cleanup crew is working. While his old friend Toku struggles with the new heated chainsaws and says that the giant corpses make him feel like an ant in comparison, Kafka runs at him with the kind of positive energy that instantly puts smiles on everyone's face. He explains that he got Toku's location from HQ because he wanted to return his old books on the Defense Force recruitment exam. While Toku is shocked that he still has them, Kafka is more amazed by the new models of the chainsaws instead. The crew asked about his new life, but Kafka excitedly picks up one of the heated saws and tries it out, amazed by how powerful it feels compared to the old stuff. Just as one of the guys says that they are harder to use around blood vessels, Kafka slices cleanly through like a pro, so Toku brags that his buddy worked in the business for 10 whole years. Next, Kafka enjoys Mitsu's complaining that he got stuck with the dirty work after he left, but when Mitsu tells him to leave the Defense Force because he's a bottom feeder there, he could be a superstar in the cleanup crew. Hearing that, Toku blasts in with a water hose and laughs like a maniac as he says that he deserves it for yapping too much. The weird scene leaves the men observing Kafka completely baffled, wondering just what kind of life the kaiju man is living. Later, he waves goodbye to his old crew while Mitsu sighs and wonders aloud what will become of the Defense Force now that Director Shinomiya is gone. He always thought of the man as unbeatable, and now he is even considering moving to another city, even though he feels bad leaving Kafka behind. When he tells Toku to do the same for his daughter's sake, Toku yells back in fury and refuses. He vows that he will never run away because someone needs to be around to clean up the pieces once the Defense Force tears Number 9 apart. Stunned at his courage, Mitsu says Toku can be surprisingly cool sometimes, even if he is a drunk who is drowning in gambling debts. But Toku walks on with complete faith that Kafka and the Defense Force will take revenge on Number 9. Back at headquarters, Kafka steals his resolve and swears he will defeat Number 9 the next time they fight no matter what it takes, because he refuses to lose anyone dear to him anymore. Just then, Captain Narumi drops down on the bench beside him and bluntly says he can't allow him to stay in the Defense Force. If Kafka keeps transforming, there's a chance his body may never return to normal, and Narumi refuses to make a subordinate fight under that risk. However, his words flip in the next instant as he grabs Kafka by the collar and tells him to fight for the Defense Force anyway. He makes it clear that he does not care if Kafka turns into a kaiju because he will kill him himself when that day comes, and that is proof of how much he wants Number 9 destroyed. He believes Kafka feels the same since both of them witnessed what the monster did that day with their own 2 eyes. Kafka replies that he also has a goal he is after, and the director was the only one who bet on him when no one else would, so he is ready to face anything to honor that chance. Hearing that, Narumi puts on a serious face and tells Kafka to follow him for training, declaring that it is time for the Defense Force to make their move. Meanwhile, at the 3rd Division, Vice Captain Hoshino walks up to the half-dead body of Kaiju Number 10 in a giant chamber and asks the beast if it enjoyed its nap. The lab scientists grow uneasy as Kaiju Number 10 shows a fortitude of 5.7 even in its current state. When it spots the vice captain of the 3rd Division, it growls, but Hoshino tells him he is not going to impress anyone like that and warns that if he tries again, he might consider annihilating him a second time. The kaiju laughs and calls him the Katana Man, arguing that he is different from anyone else he has fought and even admitting he once wished to win and devour him. The operation team's lady, Okanoji, advises Hoshino to be cautious since they cannot predict what the kaiju might be planning. So Hoshino drops the act and gets straight to the point. He tells the kaiju about one they have named Number 9, shows him a picture, and orders him to open his mouth if he knows anything. Number 10 agrees and reveals a shocking truth that Number 9 is the one who created him. He then demands something in return, asking to be released from prison so he can fight alongside them. The vice captain refuses, telling him it is impossible, especially since his core is far too damaged to be restored to a state where he could fight. The kaiju interrupts, saying he already knows that and did not mean it that way. Number 10 explains that he is aware they have the technology to turn his body into a weapon, and as he regenerates his body rapidly, he asks to be converted into one and equipped, demanding that Hoshino use his body. Hearing this, even Captain Minna looks startled while the operation team's officer warns Hoshino that it could be way too dangerous, since there has never been a case of converting an intelligent kaiju into a weapon, and above all, they cannot predict what effects it might have on the wielder. The kaiju argues that his battle with the vice captain felt like a dream, but Hoshino tells him to shut his mouth because all he felt was boredom. Number 10 refuses to believe it, saying he could tell that Hoshino was definitely enjoying the fight and insisting he is just like him. The kaiju explains that for him, it does not matter whether the opponent is kaiju or human as long as the battle is thrilling and satisfies his desire to fight. Hoshino tells him to wait and that he will need some time to answer his request, then leaves the secret research lab. As he gets outside, he starts complaining to Okunoji that the kaiju is terrifying and he cannot understand why it loves fighting so much. Hashina admits he has no desire to equip such a monster, and Okunoji agrees, adding that they have no idea what the kaiju might be plotting and fear could end up taking over his body. Hoshino argues that number 10 is pretty strong, and since they don't have any other source of information, he's willing to go as far as it takes for his nation, even if the plan fails and he has to pay with his life. He contacts Captain Mina and tells her he wants to take the kaiju's deal to get some information out of him. Mina agrees and says she will let him make a call to the HQ and tell him they plan to turn number 10 into a weapon for him. Hashino makes it clear that he doesn't care if the kaiju likes him or not, as he walks up to him and tells him to start using his mouth again. The kaiju questions if this means they have a deal, but the vice captain assures him that the one in control will be him and not the kaiju. The scene shifts as news of Hashino's arrival at the HQ reaches Kakoru, and Vice Captain Iji tells her that he is coming for a meeting to discuss plans related to kaiju number 9. Kafka, meanwhile, thinks back on how he never got a chance to apologize to the captain for hiding the truth from him. The vice captain of the 1st Division asks Kakoru about Narumi, and she explains that the captain took the platoon leaders with him and went somewhere. Eiji mutters that this is bad since the 1st and 3rd Divisions share Tokyo as their jurisdiction and are always comparing themselves with each other. Meanwhile, a fight breaks out between the two divisions when Narumi and Hoshino start arguing after Narumi scolds the 3rd Division for stepping into his territory. Hashino fires back, saying he got permission from the higher-ups at HQ, who are definitely more important than Narumi, and that only makes the 1st Division captain snap harder as he starts body-shaming him. It quickly turns into a contest of pride as both of them argue about who is better, with Hoshino reminding Narumi of the time he beat him in small kaiju kills and how his captain, Mina, holds the title for long-range fire. Narumi ends up losing this war of words where he admits he never liked Hoshino and tells him to leave, but before the mood can sink further, his own vice captain, Eiji, steps in and smacks him on the head. The 1st Division immediately pays respect to their vice captain, while Eiji calmly takes Hoshino along to the leaders' conference, where they are waiting for more information on number 9. Everyone, including Atami, takes their seat, while those stationed in other cities join the conference through calls. The meeting begins with how the Eastern Japan forces will strengthen their defenses against kaiju number 9. In the middle of it, Captain Jura snaps at Narumi for yawning during such a serious discussion. Narumi fires back, calling her a muscle brain, which instantly sparks a small quarrel between them. Mina steps in to back Jura, saying that the 1st Division captain is good for nothing except swinging his strength at kaiju. The dispute grows louder as more captains throw themselves into the argument, until it spirals into chaos and eventually has to be silenced. Hashina is asked to share his points, and he steps forward with the data he has gathered on kaiju number 9. He straightaway cuts to the chase as he explains that this enemy is not something any single division can handle alone. As expected, his dozing rival Narumi questions him about the source of this information, and Hashina reveals that it came from number 10, the kaiju currently in their possession, who has disclosed a shocking truth that he was created by number 9. The entire room grows tense as they struggle to believe that a kaiju could actually create another with a fortitude of 9. Hoshino argues that it is very possible and suggests that number 9 might be the first kaiju capable of such a thing. He further explains that number 10 admitted he was only a prototype, and that the ones to come would be completed versions. He lays out the grim reality that the Japan Defense Force could at best handle 5 kaiju of such fortitude, but if the fortitude rises even higher, the number they can manage drops drastically. And if number 9 truly manages to mass-produce kaiju of this level, while the divisions remain unable to cooperate beyond their own boundaries, the nation's survival will not last long. A stir breaks out among the officers, and the 4th Division Captain Ogata raises doubts about whether this could be nothing more than a lie, but Hashina addresses the possibilities and then shows them the data, pointing out how the yearly average fortitude has sharply risen and how all records match his conclusion. He says that while they still don't know much about kaiju, the most refined theory suggests that the massive energy and distortion created by tectonic faults affect geological material and lead to the birth of kaiju, and he believes that number 9 has somehow managed to interfere with this process and create his own kaiju. Eiji asks if he has any idea about the kaiju's location, and Hashina explains that number 9 constantly shifts his bases of operation, but if he needs enough energy to create multiple daikaiju, then he would likely be somewhere along the contact point between the Philippine and Eurasian plates, but the captain of the 4th Division points out that the area is far too vast for them to search even if they spend years on it. Captain Mina adds that number 10 has also revealed that number 9 can access the memories of any human it absorbs, and now that it has Director Shinomiya's memories, they are at a serious disadvantage, turning the situation into a race. Hoshina stresses that they need to train their weaker officers, who show the most potential to grow in a short time. Mina concludes that the most crucial goal is to raise someone capable of wielding the Defense Force's most powerful weapon, number 6, which still hasn't been put to use. Itami thinks that if they succeed, It would mean pitting the former king of kaiju against the current one. And as Captain Jura questions whether they have any leads on someone capable of handling it, Mina explains that they have taken biological samples from new recruits, and among them, one promising candidate they've identified is Reno Ichikawa. Ogata realizes they scored a jackpot when they get Reno on their side, but just as he's about to take a drink, his vice captain, Toko Kiramori, snatches it away, forcing him to stay focused on his duties. Kaiju number 6 was the one with a fortitude of 9.6, bringing disaster along the countless Hanju. Toko recalls that she was still a student back then, but the devastation left such a mark that she can never forget it, and Japan even lost one of its most important captains, Hikari Shinomiya of the 2nd Division. It was a day of rare snowfall, and the incident remains etched in people's memories even now. Later that day, the captain calls Reno and informs him that he's been granted permission to test whether he can wield number 6 weapon, though Ogata tries to scare him off by warning that half the users die from the strain these weapons put on the body, even advising him to turn down the offer. That night, while running, Reno thinks about his friend Kafa and resolves that he's going to save him, after which he gladly accepts the offer. He is brought in to test just a part of the weapon, only its arms, and when Ogata asks what he plans to do, Reno simply tells him to start, and the look in his eyes catches the captain's attention. The order is given to begin the assimilation, and Reno is thrown into a terrifying experience, realizing in that moment what his friend Kafa has been enduring all this time. The kaiju begins taking over him, his body and mind gets pushed to a limit until he finally passes out. When he wakes, he finds himself in the medical room where Iharu is relieved to see him fine. The captain asks if he felt the terror of using a numbered weapon and explains how much stress it put on his body, even though he equipped only a part of it. Trying to scare his junior further, he tells him he has no idea what might happen if he were to equip the whole thing and advises him to refuse again. But Reno stands firm and without hesitation declares that he is ready for it. The captain worries that if Reno were to head out to the front lines in this state, he might not last long, but in the end he plays along and grants him a trial period of 1 month, after which Reno will be sent on a neutralization mission where it will be decided whether he is truly worthy of wielding the most powerful numbered weapon in battle or not. The next day, Reno starts training with the number 6 gear once again while Iharu watches him from the railing above. He thinks back on his time at the training academy, where he was the top student that no one could touch. He remembers that his mind would grasp all the lessons and his body would continuously grow stronger with every session, and that made him think that he could easily join the likes of captains like Mina, Jen, and Izzo. But then he snaps back to reality and sees Ren falling down after yet another failed attempt and realizes that the main character of this story isn't him anymore. 1 month later, Ren actually manages to equip and bring his numbers up to actual combat level and is sent off to a neutralization mission as promised. As he prepares to activate his suit, Iharu notices how it's releasing a freezing cold aura, and Ogata complains about wanting to teach the young boy a lesson by giving him an impossible task and wonders if he is what they call a genius. Vice Captain Toko says that if it were any other division, he would have been arrested for this. But thanks to the 3rd Division's data, they can confirm that Ren's growth rate is even greater than that of Mina. After that, Ogata tells Ren that he will be working with a platoon to take out the Mole Type 67 Hanju with a fortitude level of 6.4, and if he can't neutralize it properly, he will step in and do it himself, and reminds him that this is his chance to prove that he can actually use the number 6 suit. With that, Ren jumps down with his squad and charges straight for the massive kaiju in the center. On his way, he remembers Ogata setting a 10-minute time limit for him to use the suit because it can shorten the wearer's lifespan. This makes him desperate for results, and he ends up running into a smaller kaiju on his way. He decides to jump to the side and finish it off with a few strong shots, but unfortunately, he's still not accustomed to the new ice powers of number 6, which make him fall on the ground instead of jumping cleanly. The monster takes this chance to stomp him, but Iharu follows up by increasing his output and stops the Yonju in its tracks with the other members. Ren uses this opportunity to shoot the monster with an icy blast and then jumps over it before freezing his feet for support over a tree and finishes it off with a single shot that destroys the monster's core and leaves Iharu surprised. Seeing this makes him frustrated with himself, and he wonders why he can't defeat such a weak kaiju in one shot like Ren. He spaces out and one of the monsters almost eats him, but the other members save him just in time by opening fire. While firing back, Iharu thinks to himself that it all started once he joined the defense force and saw his growth coming to a stop. He would constantly get beaten by others, and for the first time he saw what real talent looks like while thinking about people like Kikoru, Haruchi, and Aoi. He thinks that he realized that he didn't have what it takes to be at the top of this field. But then he met the real monster, Ren, who completely outgrew him in the months of joining the force. All this thinking leads to the Yonju managing to strike Iharu with its tail, and it sends him back into a tree. Ogata reminds him not to force himself using a drone and says that it's important to know when to retreat as well, but this makes Iharu think just how pathetic he is right now. The monster doesn't let him rest, however, and starts charging at him. But just before it can turn him into a pancake, Ren jumps in and shoots back at the massive lizard. He thanks Iharu for helping him earlier and tells him to leave the rest to him. But hearing this makes Iharu panic as he internally begs him not to leave him behind. After that, Ren engages with the massive Hanju at the center of this mission and unleashes the max power of number 6 that he can't at the moment at 43%. With that, he jumps down towards the massive monster, which tries to stomp him and sends a tree flying towards Ogata's camp. But Ren simply sidesteps and freezes one of the monster's legs by simply touching it. He then starts running up and jumps over it to get a good shot at its core, but realizes that the monster skin is too hard and it regenerates way faster compared to the smaller ones, and that he would need more power to finish it off, and increases the suit's output to 46%. He then shoots the monster and leaves a massive hole in its leg before increasing the output even more to 51%. This makes the support group worried for him, and they ask if he's fine, but Reno shuts them up by saying that his head feels clearer than ever. This makes Ogata worried, but Ren continues rushing toward the kaiju, which gets serious as well and changes its form. Ren thinks that if he were stronger, he wouldn't have had to see his friends suffer, and he jumps over the kaiju to dodge its energy attack before jumping back on its back and unleashing multiple ice shots with great precision. Toka notes that he's really strong, but the support team confirms that his body is not ready for such movement, saying that they can see muscle tears in at least 6 places. This makes them worry if the kaiju has taken over him. But Ogata says that it's simply just who Ren is and explains that using the numbers brings out the true potential of the user's mind and body, and it amplifies everything about them, and that's why one needs to be able to control themselves, otherwise their own desires will destroy their body. Hearing this, Iharu starts walking towards Ren while thinking that when he first failed to control number 6, a part of him felt relieved, and this makes him feel like an awful person. On the other hand, Ren thinks about what's happening to his body and how it's in extreme pain, but he can't stop his own thoughts about needing more power and doing it. As this corruption continues, he jumps down into the forest and instantly freezes everything around him in a 50-meter radius. He stops anyone from helping him by creating massive ice structures with his attacks, and Ogata notes that his incredible sense of responsibility is making him take on all the burden himself. With this attack, Ren manages to freeze almost 35% of the Hanju's entire body and starts attacking it faster than it can regenerate. But the support team confirms that he now has 16 muscle tears and at least 4 fractures, and if he continues with it, his body will give in. Back on the battlefield, Ren continues shooting at the monster and jumps over it, only to realize that his left leg is all messed up from overusing number 6. Seeing this, Ogata tells Ren that this is enough and tells Toko to back him up, and says that he will be joining the battle now. This makes Ren feel like a failure, and he curses his weakness while thinking that he will once again lose everything. But then Haru shouts on the intercom and begs the captain to give him and Ren a little more time. He then rushes towards Ren, while breaking the ice on the way like it's nothing. This makes Ogata surprised, and he asks the support team about his output numbers, and they say that it's at 24%. Ogata wonders how a mere 24% output could be this strong and decides to hear him out. On his way, Haru says that Ren is always honest and hardworking, and he cares about his comrades a lot to the point that it makes him jealous. But that's also why he knows that Ren can pull this off. He eventually reaches Ren and gets him out of there by putting him on his back and running away until he comes back to his senses. Once he's awake, Iharu tells him that he got some time from the captain, and right now, their senior members are distracting the massive kaiju for them so he can defeat it and officially use the number 6 suit. He tells him that he will get the core to a point where he can attack it directly and strike it from a distance. Ren says that that would be really dangerous, but Iharu headbutts him before throwing him on the ground and tells him not to underestimate him. He then reminds him that he's the older of he too, so Ren should shut up and rely on him. Hearing this, Ren gets back up and tells Iharu that he's amazing because whenever he's feeling down, he always gets him back up and looking forward in the right direction. And with that, Iharu tells him to get ready because their mission is going to overtime and jumps off towards the massive Hanju. That's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe for the channel. Thanks for watching, and it'll see you next time.